system. After the inmate is incarcerated, he should go to the isolation. If he goes to the evolution, then it's going to go until the parole. So after, which means that we have to monitor all the inmates from the day one until the days that we say that he has the right for parole. One of the activities,
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to the fourth and final edition of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Parole and Reintegration Conference that began on the 1st of December and ends today. And as we now know, the conference was opened by Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. CGDN Chiwenga. And throughout on the first day and throughout this week, we've had enriching presentations coming from representatives of the 10 countries, inmates, community members, as well as members of the academia, all sharing their insights on how Zimbabwe can come up with a robust parole system. And today, our 10 now focuses on these regional members who are now coming to give us on what they think Zimbabwe should do to come up with a perfect parole system. So we shall be talking to members of the 10 countries that are being represented here. And also we are privileged to have an inmate representing the former inmates that are now outside our prison walls. Vamtamba.
Mangwanani akanaka wamapfumo, mangwanani akanaka muri yeZimbabwe. Tiri kusangana zvakare pazuva rechina tiri paZimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Parole and Reintegration Conference pano paRainbow Towers Jacaranda Rooms, apo pari kukurukurwa nauro yekuti pabude gwaro richange richishandiswa paparole munyika yeZimbabwe. Tine nyika 10 dziri pano vakamiririra maprisons enyika dzavo kana kuti macorrectional services enyika dzavakabva vachizama kuti tibatsirane tichionesana kuti tingabude negwaro rinoenderana nemitemo inodiwa pasi rose, uye zvakare tichiitawo gwaro rinotisimudzirei kudarika magwaro avanofungidzira kuti ivo vanawo magwaro avo kunyika dzavo. Saka iye zvino izvi tiri kungotarisa kuti pane zvichabuda panhaurwa iripo pazuva ranhasi, pachabuda gwaro rekupedzesera richave iro richashandiswa, richaendeswa kuti ritarisiswe kuti rishandiswe munyika yeZimbabwe sedhokumendi reparole. Zvakare tichataura pamwe chetepo nevese vakauya vakatishanyira kubva kune dzimwe nyika kuti tinzwewo pfungwa dzavo, kuti vakutaurireiwo kuti vaonawo zvakamira sei panhaurwa iripo iyoyi iri kukurukurwa pakonferensi yemazuva 4 iri kupera nhasi masikati ano. Zvakare tichakurukura, muchaonawo tichikurukura zvakare nemumwe wevasungwa akambenge ari mujere iye zvino akabuda, ari kuitawo zvakanaka ari panze. Tichinzwawo nepfungwa dzavo sema-ex inmates kuti sezvo varivo vanhu vakanga vari mumajere vakazobudawo mujere imomo vari kuonawo sei uye vari kuonawo zvakamira sei pamusoro pegwaro irori reparole. Tinokukurudzirai kuti murambe makatarisa pachirongwa, nekuti pane zvakawanda zvichabuda patichaita hurukuro dzakasiyana siyana pazuva ranhasi, uye tichakuzivisai nezvichabuda munhaurwa iripo pazuva ranhasi. Tiripo live ZTN Prime and the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Facebook page. Saka tinoti rambai munesu kusvika nguva dzamasikati mazvitaini.
Indeed, Sultan Mtamba, there is no doubt that Zimbabwe is going to come out richer thanks to this all stakeholder involvement. My sister.
Uvuka njani namhlanje Solomon Mapfumo livuka njani mwile Zimbabwe livuka njani ke balalele emakhaya elami igama ke Principal Correctional Officer sibonakele Precious Ndanga sihlangana njalo namhlanje usuku olwesine lapho esigqiba khona ke umhlangano owe Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Parole and Reintegration Conference oqaleke mhla ka-1 December suphetha ke namhlanje sikhona pha ke kuma Jacaranda Rooms awe Rainbow Towers khona pha ke eHarare kusukela mhla ka-1 December silawo ke umhlangano siqale ngawo umhlangano khona phana sixoxisana ke ngendaba ke indlela amanye amazwe ayenza ngakhona ke iparole ngakibo ukuthi dathi thina ke khona pha kwele Zimbabwe singenza njani ukubana ke lona lelu hlelo luhambe ngendlela efaneleyo iZimbabwe isuke ke yaba lamathuba okubana ke ixoxisane ke labameli abalichuma bavela ke emazweni achiyeneyo besibonisa ukubana ke bona benza njani njalo yikuphi esingakukhangelela esingakwenza ukubana ke lona lelu hlelo aluphumelele sikwanise ke ukuhlanganeke lapho sikhwica mfundo akade besibonisa ukubana ke yikuphi esingakwenza ukubana lona lelu hlelo aluphumelele sakhuluma ke kanye ke lo mphakathi besitshela ke ukubana ke bona iparole bayibona njani babona ngani ke izaphathisa njani ilizwe leZimbabwe kanye ke lezibotshwa eziphakathi sakhuluma njalo labo singaye izibotshwa ezisemajele ke achiyene kade bekhona apha labo besitshela ukubana ke bezwa njani ngenxa yeparole so siqhubekela phambili namhlanje Mapfumo sabe sikhuluma ke ngendaba ke ezichiyene namhlanje sabe sigxileke ekuxoxisaneni ke labameli bona laba ama commissioner generals kumbe abameli bamazwe amajele achiyene ahlanganisela kabo South Africa abo Namibia izolo ke sibona iMozambique isinikeza ke ipresentation ukubana ke yikuphi abangawakhangelela akanye ke labo Zambia so hlalani ke balalele emakhaya lingaze lasuka sitholakala ke ku ZTN Prime akanye ke le Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Facebook page so Mapfumo sabe sisonke kuzokecha isikhathi ke semini sigqiba ke lona leli hlelo iZimbabwe akuphela wona lo mhlangano uzabe ususenelisa ukubana ke uqhubeke iparole ngendlela eyiyo indlela yokubana kamazwe nxa esibona thina ke njengeZimbabwe sayobona ukuthi hayi into esayibuthanele esasiyibuthanele kusela mhla ka-1 usafika umhla ka-4 December yinto esiyiyo esikhangeleleke thina njenge-Africa ukubana kwenzakala njani emajele.
Thank you, my sister. So there you are, viewers. Stay tuned as we give you more insights right here from Rainbow Towers, Jacaranda Rooms, as we come to you live for the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Parole and Reintegration Conference. Don't go away.
To this community. Here, we want to come with the competencies of those people involved in this process. In my reflection and opinion, I know that today is a world of crisis and with challenge, because without challenge, world can be just in one routine. It is important that we have challenge, but for this challenge we need to be prepared. We need people qualified with skills to give continuity of these challenges. That's why the capacity building of the parole officers is fundamental, because sometimes we are the officers of the penitentiary service, that we need to be rehabilitated, that we are going to see that we need to give that inmate, that person who is recarcerated, to be rehabilitated. So rehabilitation in some time should be subjective. Me as an officer, I need to live this rehabilitation. I need to have an awareness of this rehabilitation. I need all the necessary tools so that I can change my way of thinking, so that I can also change the person who committed crime against the society. We have different interpretation. Psychologists say that our thoughts determine our actions. Our actions will determine our acts. Our actions and habits and our characters. This character will determine the end of our action. That's why we need this continuous capacity building of our officers, even also for our inmates. So also some partnerships with some NGOs is very important, so that we can ensure and guarantee the reintegration of this inmate into the society and community. I think I've talked a lot, but in conclusion, we have there. In conclusion, all this process of the parole, we have the human dignity. What is the objective for us to be here talking about the...
We are loving the conversations that are already going on at the Zimbabwe prisons on correctional services, parole and reintegration conference. And joining me right now is Womberai Zambuko. He is a former inmate. Hi, Womberai.
Hi, Pesci, how are you?
Womberai is in Clapping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why were you incarcerated, and did you serve full term? Let's start from there.
Yeah, I served my full term. I was sentenced to 12 years for a rape offense, and 3 years were taken off, and I went to prison with 9 years, of which I served 6 years straight. After the third was taken away, according to the Constitution. So I served my full term. So
we are now at the interesting conversation of the parole conference that we are here.
Yes.
And we are here about. You served full term. What do you think of parole? The parole conversations that are happening at this
parole
conference?
is quite a step, especially in the situation of our country. And in the step to promoting full or complete reintegration, it makes it easy for the society to adapt to ex-convicts. It has been a difficult task for people to accept that someone has been in prison and is out. But with the parole system, it would at least make it a common effect, a common thing that usually inmates can even save while they are still outside and roaming around and associating and gaining more ground and leverage with the community. That helps in reintegration and re-engaging with the society.
And just even for the offenders, Womberai, just to have parole, to be granted parole, and rather than serving full term, let's have that comparison.
Yeah, serving full term is painful.
Indeed, it should be.
But sometimes it's useful, I would say. Why? It prepares you to become a better person when you come outside, a better citizen. And when you are told the term that you are serving, your adrenaline adjusts to that, and usually prepares itself that even if the victims out there, they will be saying, he's coming out after so and so years, they will be preparing themselves. So you would see some of them will be shocked to see you out, maybe without their knowledge what's really happening, and some would even go back to the police and say, hey, the person was supposed to be serving 10 years and we are seeing me walking around, what's happening? So a lot of complications when this system is going to be implemented are going to take place the same as they do when people are given amnesty or presidential pardon. But really, parole is a good thing. When it's well communicated and the society is educated, it's even a benefit to the family and those around.
What I love is the conversations have been clear that this parole is a process, and the engagements are wide.
Yes.
Before they release somebody, they speak with the society that person is going into. They speak with the victims. They speak with the families. They speak with everyone, the leaders of the community. So broadly speaking, I believe it's going to be executed well. And as you are saying, if it is executed well, then it's going also to bring better results. Let's speak about the rehabilitation programs within ZPCS. When you were incarcerated, did you benefit from any of the rehabilitation programs? If you did, which programs did you benefit from?
First of all, I would want to appreciate our government and the ministry in charge of the prisons. It's a well-collaborated system, and I really appreciate that. And I would say the prisons does its best to bring back a better person from prison. It's up to you and your choices, maybe what you want to be when you get out. But the prison has all the systems set with the minimal resources that they have. They do their best to mold and build a better person.
Wow.
Educationally and technically, they have the systems in place. So as for me, I was into art. I was a musician. I did manage to record 2 albums while I was inside.
Well done.
I also did the peer pressure course with other organizations that were coming in to offer such courses. So I have about 2 certificates that I did while I was inside in counseling and HIV and even herbal therapy. I also did that and groomed other inmates on herbal therapy and how to, to depend on herbs healthy-wise. So as an artist, I was even there to groom other inmates musically and how best they can become better musicians. Even up to this day, prisons usually takes me out, going to different prisons to go and groom other artists there, other inmates musically on how best they can produce better music. And they take me sometimes to go to their agricultural show stand to educate the society on what's the benefits on the bedside and coming out a good person in a bad place in prison. So I go there to represent ex-inmates and advocate that no, being prison doesn't mean it's a death trap or whatever. It's a place where people can live and people can come out safer and well up.
So I love the testimonial already because we have had conversation with inmates that are doing quite a whole lot of work in these prisons.
Yes.
And you are out here, you are giving the testimony to say after you serving your sentence, you acquired these skills and you are using these skills. And this is great work from ZPCS. So now you are advocating for ex-convicts.
Yes.
How has been your journey? What will you be doing and how has been your journey?
I've been someone that even prison, through the officers and other commissioners that know me, they usually call me when they face a problem with those that are about to be released. Because there's a person here who needs your help. He needs a place, he needs some counseling, he needs just to be introduced out there. How best can you do that? I've worked with different organizations as well to advocate for those guys that are coming out. Can you help me introduce guy to the community, help him achieve this, help him get that? So I've been advocating for that. It's only that we are still here to launch what we call ex-inmates for ED or for economic development, but very soon we're working on that. And basically I can say I have proved a point to chair the issues of the ex-inmates in every way. I'm called to the churches, to the societies. I've even written a module that I've sent to different organizations, including the Ministry of Education, on how best can we curb crime to the vulnerable society and those outside, so that we promote and try to stop recidivism, the recommitting of crime and reoffending. So I am advocating fully daily. My life testifies that going to prison is a bad thing. Can you please stay out here, iron out your issues out there and try to be better people. And sometimes sending someone to prison isn't a solution. It's even the worst thing or worst scenario. Try to talk issues out if the cases are those minimal and stuff. But if they are mandatory, well, we've got no choice. But I'm saying let's advocate for people to be out here and stay safe and stay free from crime.
So in terms of reoffenders, because you work with ex-convicts,
Yes.
so in terms of reoffenders, just from your work, the percentage, how is that like? Are you experiencing any reoffenders? And if you have experienced reoffenders, what would the major causes?
The major causes to reoffending, I would just zero into that. First and foremost, one has to accept that I'm in prison for him not to go back. But if you don't accept, the acceptance is the secret. In every situation, you have to accept that this is the situation I am. Don't play the blame game, blame the police, blame the victim, blame the relatives, blame whoever reported you and stuff. No.
So somebody can be in there but in denial.
Yes, in denial. And if you are in denial, definitely you are likely going back. Because you wouldn't take the lessons that you are getting there. If you hate the teacher, you hate the subject.
So usually when they go back to the society, they reoffend because maybe they are trying to still prove
a point. Yes, they're trying to prove a point and saying no, prison didn't change me. And really, prison can't change you, but the choice of change is in you.
Wow.
And accepting that it's me that is inside and I was supposed to be inside. If it wasn't for me to be inside, then who? And I'm the person to change as well. If I'm supposed to not to change, then who is going to change me? You are the change yourself.
Wow. So now I love the lessons. Those are deep lessons.
Yes.
And I believe that the people that you are speaking with are following and are listening to you, are hearkening to your voice. So maybe let's just speak about this parole conference. What would you love to see from this parole and reintegration conference? What would you love to see that's around ex-convicts?
The Parole Conference is good, and what I would advocate for, especially as an ex-convict, I came out in 2012, so I'm almost 10 years. I'm beyond a decade, proving that outside can be, safer and free from crime. I've proved that.
Well done.
So I would advocate for the parole system to also look into some inmates that have proved a point in the society, to be part and parcel of the board or the parole board or whichever board that is going to be, operating, so that they help in monitoring and advising the issues and maybe the victims or the people that are going to be, taking part and whatever the process is going to be taken. I want I advocate for for ex-inmates to be part of that.
Why? They
because
relate?
There's a lot that we have gone through, and on my part, I usually feel very sorry and maybe apologetic for the victims. So if the process, is to speak to the victims and the relatives of the victims, it would help to have a very good package for complete or total reintegration. I see victims suffer most than the perpetrators. Why am I saying so? If I commit, like, say, a rape offense, or if I steal a cow or whatever, theft of stock theft and stuff, I save my term, I finish. You get the sense?
Yeah.
For me, psychologically, I'm safe. Spiritually, I'm done. And mentally, I would tell myself I'm good. I've done my part. I've saved my term. It's over. But for you, with your relative who was raped, as per se, it will be a lifetime wound.
Indeed,
And
very much so.
The relatives can even remind the person here and there.
The society does that a lot.
Society doesn't give away.
Yes.
But for me, they can forget and say, he saved his term, he's out. Now he's a good person, he's going to church, he's even a pastor, he's even an artist, he's doing carpentry. Done. And the society will get used and forget it. Like me. If you meet me in the street, you can't tell I was in prison.
Indeed.
I'm running an organization, I'm running a company, I'm doing this and that. People can't even tell.
Indeed.
But the victim will remain a victim forever if the family doesn't adjust. So if the parole body incorporates an ex-inmate to fully educate the relatives, to fully educate the victim, that would help most.
So I love this conversation because Omberai Zambuko is clear here. Omberai is saying the beneficiaries, the parole board or the parole system should include the ex-inmates, the ex-convicts. Why? Because they have walked the journey. They know this journey, and they can then assist the victims. They can then assist even just in the implementation of the whole process. So those that need to consider this call, I believe it's a good call, and I believe it's a fair call. Can the ex-inmates be involved in this whole parole system? Now, as we are closing this conversation, may you speak to inmates. I know inmates are getting these clips. They are listening to this. They have access to this. We spoke to inmates a day before yesterday, and they say they have access to this information. Just speak to them. In case they qualify for parole, what do you want to tell them? Speak to inmates. In case they are going to be qualifying for parole, what do you want them to do? The behavior they should do as they are out there for them not to revoke their parole.
Yeah, being an inmate doesn't make you a prison person. It makes you a person that is going to be outside one of these days. So you are in prison not to stay, but you are in prison to go home. So if parole comes on your way, then thank God. Make use of that and grab it with positivity. Whilst you enter the gates of prison, think every minute, every second is working you out to be a better person out there. You are not groomed to stay in prison or become an officer one day. No, you are being groomed to get out a better family person, a better candidate to suit in the society, and a better director or an executive person in one of these companies one day. And work that out and believe in yourself and believe in reformation. The system can't change you, but you can change yourself. So be a better person and afford this opportunity, and appreciate the government for introducing this a million-time opportunity of parole. And let's grab it with 4 hands. It's really an advantage to us as inmates.
So, to inmates, let's grab this opportunity, this parole opportunity with 4 hands. This is the word from the ex-inmate, Womberai. Grab the opportunity, the parole opportunity being given to you with 4 hands and make use of it. So lastly, just speak to the ex-inmates that are out there. You don't want them to re-offend. You want them to stay clean. Speak to them.
Yeah, for my fellow brothers that are out there, you are part of my family, and we make a good, strong family because we've got a history that we share together. Recommitting usually, hurts me because I believe something would have lagged, or someone would have wronged you, or the community wouldn't have played its part, of the family. But I say be strong. Out there, it's not a silver platter. When you get out there, be strong, face whatever is there, and be yourself. And whoever is to assist you should assist you as a real person. Being an ex-inmate is not an excuse, but being an ex-inmate makes you a better person. Remember, presidents are out there, bigger people and icons are out there that have once been in prison, and talk of Mandela, talk of many other guys. You are one of them, and you can be great too. Thank you.
There was Womberai Zambuko, a former inmate, giving us nuggets here around inmates. Behave yourselves and get this parole. When it comes your way, grab it with 4 hands. I love the part of 4 hands. Grab it with 4 hands. Make use of it and make sure that you do well. And to the ex-inmates, continue to behave yourself and also avoid re-offending. You should know that you are the only one who can make it work. Thank you, Womberai, for having this conversation, for giving these insights. We appreciate you.
Thank you too. Thank you too.
The crime. Yeah. The second question is the involvement of judicial service. The judicial system in Mozambique, after being approved of the law, the materialization of this law is the judge is the person who had a right. This judge is specific to lead with the issue of prison. This judge doesn't do any other, he only deal with the penalties for the inmate for his parole. And this judge, his action, it have to be to make a follow-up of all the protocols and norms that are in our law. Because our legislation in Mozambique, it have to be. It doesn't mean that we have just to follow the rules in the constitution and the establishment, the penitential establishment that we have the last decision, but also because of the social services and penitential service, they will be gather tools for this citizen to be given a parole, and this process it will be submitted to the judge. It's true that the level of these services in our penalties, we can also see a situation whereby the judge or the inmate, in order to accomplish all the penalty, he can also present some behaviors whereby disciplinary behaviors inside of our facilities. We also have human integrity, and imminent can put in danger the dignity of his partner inside of our facilities. That's why our services, they have to record all those behaviors, and in their report they will be saying that in a certain timeline, this report or this imminent, he was involved in an act that can be dangerous for the others inside of the facilities. For these records, the judge will be there in order to decide in favor or not for this imminent to receive the parole according to his behaviors. Talking about the church, yes, I've mentioned that the church is one of the important organization in our parole system because of our church services, but let me say that is not mandatory that the imminent have to be in this service. There is an opening place that we also know the importance of the information that our church leaders who brings in our facilities. And also we know that the imminent who is always listening the word of God, he will be maybe presenting changes and will be ready to resend to the community. But it's also true that even the people who are involved in church like full time, they are involved in crimes. We also have pastors who is involved in crime. They are in our facilities, but then most of them they also revoke that I have been involved in this crime, that this is the will of God. So that I was saying that the church is always there to play his role. The other question: what is Mozambique consider in evaluation of the mandate of penalty? I was talking about the ways of the imminent who be has a way of his daily life in our facilities, and also he have to be monitored for his because of methods of reintegration in some of the activities. We have agriculture, we have mercenary or computers, we have so many variety of way of teaching our imminent. The other question is when the imminent they know how to behave when they're in our facilities in order to be given the parole. But then talking about the parole, we'll start with the principle of that the imminent, even though that he was involved in a crime, but he also have his human rights established in our society. So that's why we have a monitoring process, and we also have our law. They have to be obeyed. Though all those principles are, they have to be followed when the imminent is inside of our facilities, in order that if the person have presented the change, the person will be able to receive the parole system. Accordingly, the monetarization process of the imminent, because it's showing the necessity of changing his behavior. This is one of the process, and I believe that this is the only way that even our colleagues have presented also. The execution of a penalty is being powered by the judge according to our law. does approve the execution of the penalty, the competence of this judge in order to lead this process. The public ministry will be there because of legality of the law of Mozambique. There is also social services. There is also penitential services. There is also a community. They will be called for them to be in this meeting. And also the imminent, so that he will be part of the meeting and see if he is legible in the decision will be taken in this meeting or technical meeting. I don't know if I've missed some questions, but those are the one I recorded. Thank you.
Ending statistics of the releases in relation to how many of them end up being reoffended.
Thank you. Even though I can bring a statistic, let me mention that I was in level or in national level in Mozambique before the approval of the parole, or what was happening before in our prisons. We were seeing the overloading our facilities, and people were gathering in all circumstances, and also we were violating the human right. Because of that, the statistic I can bring right now is the increase or decrease the number of our facilities or penitentiary services. I don't have right now. I don't have number of the imminent that who have given the parole, but we have a process of parole. Yes, we do have, but numbers right now I don't have numbers.
Do we have a bit of time left? So we'd like to invite more questions. I saw earlier that we had more hands raised towards the left of the room. Yes, ma'am.
My question is actually centered on an inmate who can actually come up with a change of mind after he had actually made up his mind that he wants to also apply for this parole. I want to just start by giving an example. We made to understand from the presentation from Mozambique that the system or the procedure takes about 90 days, all right? Now I want to go back to this inmate. He actually or she will have served 3/4 of the sentence, all right? On this one, I'm going to exclude the lifers because we don't have the last date of the sentence. It's all about the Almighty who knows about it. So I just want to zero on to the inmates who actually has a complete sentence of maybe probably about 90 years, all right? And this person will have served more than 3/4 of a sentence, and he thinks about applying for the parole, of which he is invited to sit at the body, and he was recommended. And these recommendations have to be taken to the president's office, all right? Because the body will have actually discovered that he meets all other conditions. But now, during this process, this inmate was also still in the cells. He's also thinking whether he's made the right decision or not. The president, suppose he grants that it's approved that the inmate can actually be released on the grounds of parole. And then before.
We are joined by the giants in correctional services, and this is the Namibian Correctional Service Commissioner General, Mr. Raphael Haminyela. How are you, sir?
Thank you, ma'am.
We are calling you giants because we are learning a lot from you during this conference as moderators as well. So, Commissioner General, we know that Namibia has played a significant role in guiding Zimbabwe towards establishing this parole framework. So from your perspective, what are the key principles and practices from the Namibian models that can be used to shape this envisaged parole system in Zimbabwe? What can we learn from you?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for having me. And good morning to the viewer and the listeners outside there. Indeed, Namibian Correctional Service has parole. And what is very much significant in this parole is how one qualifies for parole.
Okay.
It's the most important area we need to deal with first. Namibia implemented a strategy, offender risk management correctional strategy, a strategy that looks on the risks and the needs of a person that contributed to his committing the crime. It is on that when this person is within our correctional facilities, we have now to assess him, and when we determine that one, then we have to give him programs that will address either his risk or his need. And the moment his criminogenic need is addressed, then is when now we will say there is evidence of change. And then to give inmate parole is when we are confident that this person, there is evidence on him that he has changed.
Right.
And then hence he must be given opportunity to go and serve part or portion of his or her sentence in the community.
Indeed.
While assuring the community that at a level of being a human being, because we are not God, I think that's also, I need also underscore it.
Yes.
Us as correctional officials, we are not God, we are not Jesus, we are not angels, we are human beings.
Yeah.
What we are saying, evidence of change, is what can be seen by a human being. Factors which we can say at least we arrived at a certain standard of level of behavior. And on that one, we grant parole. Hence, parole need to be taken as a privilege. I think Zimbabwe need to make sure, say, parole should not be a right. Parole should be a privilege.
That's quite
given to the inmate who shown good behavior, who shown change. So the moment we make it a right, or the moment we allow it, for example, to be decided by a judge to give order to give or not to give parole, then that will become a right, and then it will not serve the purpose of our administration, where we need to enforce inmate to change. It's just those are privileges which you need to put for the inmate to work towards attaining them. Hence, parole in Namibia, parole is being earned. It's not being granted anymore. You have to earn it.
I love it.
You have to earn it.
Yeah.
It's not that it can be granted to you, or is it provided by law that you can be granted parole. We had the granting of parole all the years, but since 2014, our parole become legally to be earned.
So you have to work for it.
You have to work for it. It's not that, but previously when you come in for 3 months, we already grant you 1 month parole because it was to be granted. And we realize it is not doing justice to the law, to the purpose, and to the intention of parole.
Wow. This is quite insightful. So it's not a right, it's a privilege, which can be withdrawn any time if you invoke it.
If you are not earning it, it cannot be granted to you. And the moment you earn it, if you commit a disciplinary offense, when we are giving you punishment, we are removing days from which you earn on the parole. It is a punishment for your behavior.
Wow.
Hence, if you earned 3 months, then the disciplinary inquiry punish you for 15 days. It's deducted from your parole. It goes back to your sentence. You have now to save them in the correctional facility.
Great lessons indeed. So we know that you are the chairperson of the African Correctional Services Association. So you have observed parole and reintegration processes within the region. What lessons have you learned from the region that you can also say Zimbabwe should implement?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, we are busy assessing parole within SADC. We are putting up an instrument for us to understand how is parole operating in SADC. But most of the time when we discuss parole, you find that parole is a tool which is really good for influencing rehabilitation. It's one of the tools that influence inmate for rehabilitation. Because most of the people did a mistake to come to our facilities. It's not everybody who is a hardcore criminal or who is doing this intentionally. Most of people they committed the crime accidentally.
I see.
And they found themselves there. But indeed, because of the system of parole, you find most of SADC or most of African countries who are having a parole, it is also assisting the administration to reduce overcrowding
in prisons.
On condition it is done by the Correctional Service Administration.
Indeed.
But the moment is having influence of the court impose sentence, and yet the court impose an order, no parole. That in Namibia it become interference between judiciary and executive. There's no separation of power anymore. You are a judge here and you are also an administrator here. Hence I want Zimbabwe to take care of that one, to allow the separation of power to prevail. The court should impose sentence. The Correctional Service Administration should deal with the administration of sentences. And then on that basis, you will be fair and frank in handling the parole system.
Thank you very much. That's quite insightful. So we also understand that you have a vibrant ICT system that you use within your correctional facilities. Could you explain how ICT has transformed parole management in Namibia? Maybe let's start with you explaining your ICT parole system that we are learning from, and that is then the part on how that will assist us as Zimbabwe if we implement that.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Yes, Namibia, since 2013, we implemented offender management system.
Okay.
A system that our admission, everything dealing with the inmates is done through the system.
Okay.
The IT system. Hence, it makes it now easier to say the National Release Board administrator is able to determine who will be eligible for parole when, how many inmates who will become eligible for parole at which time. In terms of our law, each inmate should be seen by Institutional Release Committee 3 months before his eligibility date. If he to be eligible for parole by March next year, is the date that he can become eligible to go on parole, he should be seen 3 months before
Prior,
March.
Yes.
Hence, the administrator at the head office level will have the data already, because the system will be able to tell him how many inmates will be eligible for which months. Hence, the control is there to make sure that he must alert the officers in charge, even though the officers in charge himself also is having the same system to make sure. And the person who's responsible is having the same system, but yet the person at the head office has responsibility of making sure he sends an alert that we are waiting for this parole profile for this inmate, and it should come within this time. And everybody can see. And it assisted us to do this thing fairly. And it's also assisted us when it comes to the issue of putting inmates on program, because our programs are taking place almost 6 months. Inmate goes into those programs for not less than 6 months, and then it's not all of them who pass. When a group goes to that one, only maybe out of 10, maybe 8 successfully completed the program, and 2 did not. Hence, if a person did not complete that program, he can be assessed yet by the Institutional Release Committee. He and the Institutional Release Committee will call the program officer to tell whether this person successfully completed or just completed. And if it's not successfully completed, in terms of our parole law, no authority has power or have authority to stop the recommendation there. If the level of that inmate ought to go to be decided by the Commissioner General, all people will just putting their recommendation. Yes, this inmate, we are not recommending his parole because he did not complete the program successfully. Until it comes to the Commissioner General and the Commissioner General. Even when it has to go to the President, I will also put my recommendation. This inmate, I'm not recommending him to be released on parole because of A, B, C, D. There's no one who's having a decisive power to stop the thing here and say no. If the law says to go to the President, it has to go to the President, but with my recommendation. And experience assisted us to say all the time, the President will follow what was recommended by the administrator. We do not have any instance where the President decided otherwise, because he knows these are administrators who are doing it procedurally and professionally well.
So what can Zimbabwe implement or adopt within the short term to medium term of the things that you have been speaking about? You know the Zim system already, maybe from what you have been briefed. What can they implement within the short to medium term?
Yeah, but for Zimbabwe, because the system I'm saying is not does not require resources, it just requires a law. What is needed is just Zimbabwe to come up with a law. I think Zimbabwe is even in a good position, looking on it to say he called up this parole workshop or conference for us to discuss where he's trying to get to pick up from here and here and get a proper system which might be better than any other system in Africa. Because when we put up parole laws, we never do research or benchmark like this one.
Oh, okay.
We have been just improving by ourselves, depending on the challenges we are facing.
So you're saying Zim has done it in a better way because they've called upon this conference, they are learning from the region, they're also learning from the best.
You can't say it more better than that. That is the truth. That is the reality. That Zimbabwe is very well, is doing it better, and I'm expecting them to have a better system on condition they are going to avoid the things which were already giving challenges and problems to others people.
Yeah, I love that part already, because they can fall into the pitfalls that you fell as Namibia, because they have taken lessons already from those. So as we are closing this, looking ahead, as African Correctional Service Association chairperson, how do you envision regional cooperation, particularly between Namibia and Zimbabwe, in continuing to shape and unify the standards around parole, reintegration and rehabilitation services in the region?
Thank you very much for that. You see, maybe let me go a bit 2-3 steps back. How do I see the system? I think my predecessor is Evaristo Shikongo, who retired 2014.
Okay.
And he had a brilliant brother, General Dimonzi.
Okay.
And these people, they laid down the foundation upon which we are standing today. The reality, the relationship Namibia and Zimbabwe are in today is because of our predecessor. Because they laid down the foundation properly, and it also now influencing other SADC heads to follow suit.
Great job indeed that they did.
Because they just see the relationship is that a brotherhood relationship, which making things so easier in all angles, not only in parole. Parole is just coming now, but if you look on many aspects of the correctional service fraternity between Zimbabwe and Namibia, you can go in agriculture, you can go in training of any other. You can come to the issue of rehabilitation. We are so glued together as brothers, not even as friends. We are not friends. And I think I want to underscore this, to say Namibia and Zimbabwe, we went beyond being friends. We are not friends anymore. We are brothers.
Indeed.
We are brothers. We are there standing for one another. And we are there trying to do things better for our countries, for our people, and for the continent. Currently, we are, by Dr. Chiovu, was elected as a board member of International Prison and Correctional Service Association, where I have been serving now for 8 years. And now Zimbabwe will host the same conference come 2027, which Namibia hosted in 2014. It is just telling you to say we mean business, and we want to promote the rights and the freedoms of our people. We want everybody to come and see what we are doing. We have nothing to hide, and we have nothing to fear. We decided to say, let's go for it. If it is wrong, let us rectify it. If it's right, let us stand for it. And that is very, very important to us. Hence, we are here to influence other member states. We are here with our colleagues who are also running at the same level, and we are also learning from them. We are not saying we are the best. We are also learning from them, but we are happy that they are also appreciating the relationship, the brotherhood relationship that we have.
Thank you very much. That was Commissioner General Raphael Hamunyela, Namibian Correctional Service. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Wabi Mtetwa, the Acting Chief Deputy Commissioner for Community Corrections and also Deputy Commissioner for Social Reintegration from the South Africa Correctional Services. How are you, madam?
I'm good, ma'am, and you?
Very well. We have seen your presentations from South Africa. We want to learn from you. You have done this before. So my first question would be, what key lessons have you been sharing with Zimbabwe as they're embarking on this parole journey?
No, the first thing that we shared with them was our the parole system, how we do the parole system in South Africa. What we have is the offender rehabilitation part that sets the tone for all other processes that will follow. We indicated how we journey the offender throughout the process until the reintegration phase. In this phase, when we admit the person, we need to have all applicable source documents so that we are able to profile this person, and we need to profile the community where this person is coming from and where this person will be released back to. And we even shared the different programs that we have, the rehabilitation programs that talks to the offending behavior and the treatment programs and also reintegration programs. We also shared how our structure of the parole board is composed and the types of parole that we have, like the normal parole and the parole through supervision and the paroling of lifers and the medical parole. And we also shared with them the few programs that we have within community corrections, as such programs assist in the reintegration process of the offender. And key also to note, we emphasize on the involvement of the victim, especially on admission in a correctional facility, and the fact that we link our rehabilitation programs and reintegration programs with an offender, with the victim, so that there's justice for all. As we train our offenders, we also train our victims. The restoration starts while the person is still incarcerated. And we also emphasize the working closer with various stakeholders, like your business people, your community-based structures, the faith-based organizations, and any other organization that will be assisting in the rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders.
That was quite broad, but maybe for the benefit of the viewers who missed that presentation, just speak about the types of paroles that you have. Just brief us about those, the ones that we were speaking about.
Okay. There's the first, let me just indicate the delegated authorities that may grant a parole. It is the courts. The court will say you are sentenced into for how many years, and you are to be given parole after serving so much. And then we've got the head of the center who is mandated or delegated to approve parole for all those sentenced for lower than 24 months and lower. And then we've got the parole boards, and then we've got the National Council of Correctional Services, and then we've got the minister that will also be approving parole. Then now the types of parole. One is sentenced to imprisonment. Then there's a way of handling that parole, undergoing the rehabilitation process, and then you get your parole either by the head of the center or the parole board. Then now the court may sentence a person to do a sentence outside the prison. That's also where the court comes in. It's another type of a parole.
Like a community service in Zimbabwe.
Like community service, etc. Similar to that, the court will sentence you to say, go to the prison, you serve a certain portion of your sentence, and it will be converted to supervision, meaning that if you are sentenced, for example, to 6 years, you might do 1/6 of your sentence. Maybe you do, roughly to calculate, you'll do 2 years. Then the rest is supervision. And the supervision has got the conditions in a form of doing community service or victim compensation. And then those who are sentenced into a fine with an understanding that this person who might pay the fine, then the same sentence is converted to parole supervision. You are also released before your time. Then there's a medical parole where, due to your incapacity, your illness, your health deteriorating, then you will consider for parole. Then as a lifer, you are to serve a certain portion, and then you are going to get a parole. But in general, all offenders do qualify for parole, but according to certain criteria.
And good behavior is part of that.
Yes.
So you are in charge of social reintegration, and what strategies have you been implementing just to make sure that parolees successfully reintegrate into the society, and because we want to learn from those strategies as Zimbabwe?
Right. The main one is to ensure that we supervise them or we monitor them as prescribed. We try to reduce the reoffending behavior and the risk to various communities and individuals. All the time we ensure that we know their whereabouts, we attend to them. We also create job opportunities for them. We liaise with various business people and other stakeholders to assist in creating job opportunities for them. We also empower them economically by training them in various different skills. And like I've indicated earlier on, we don't train the offenders alone. We also involve the victims, so that at the end of the day, there's some kind of repatriation or some kind of saying, out of the crime that I've committed, I was able to mend my relations with the victim. And we believe that if relations are restored, crime will be reduced. And we also have got the ambassador program where a parolee who have achieved or have successfully reintegrated is utilized to empower communities and the juveniles, go out to schools and talking about disadvantages of committing crime and how to start your life after imprisonment. We go all out doing community outreach programs, reaching out to schools, reaching out to everybody so that they will know and understand what is correctional services and what does the parole mean.
And business persons or business people or businesses that you have been engaging, they have been forthcoming in employing the inmates on parole?
Yes, they do employ them. And we have seen, even not necessarily business people, even government departments. We can indicate one who has excelling in mathematics, because some of them do attend a school go up to tertiary and achieve. One is employed as a teacher, doing very well in one school in mathematics and various other institutions. Some business people even employ them as CEO, as chief executive officers or as just ordinary employees within their companies.
Yeah, well done on that. That's a great lesson
Yes,
for
that's
Zimbabwe,
true.
because
Yeah.
you don't want them to be idle, you don't
Yes,
want them to be alienated,
that's true.
segregated, stigmatized.
Yes.
You want to make sure that they are embraced back
Yes.
into their usual routine, the routine they used to do before they were incarcerated.
Yes, and also just to mention that when they do their community service, we ensure that they are known that they are doing their community service, and such a service is seen by the community. We will even build houses for victims of crime using the labor of the offenders as a way of saying, here we are. This is what we can do, that we can offer for our communities. We emphasize that they must uplift their communities where they come from. We should also remember that they might have wronged an individual, but the mere fact that they've committed a crime within a community, they also have to apologize to their respective communities.
So this actually answers my third question, where I was going to ask that South African model is known for its like strong community correction system. So I was going to ask you that question, but from what you are saying already, it speaks to how you are doing it, the way you are doing that, and that is why you are cited as strong in that area. Yeah. So maybe as we are then closing, we can speak about the future collaborations with Zimbabwe. So as Zimbabwe work towards establishing its parole system, its reintegration system, what opportunities are there for us so that we can then work together with South Africa just to make sure that this works well and we strengthen our regional standards and support each other in the effort?
Let me first mention that we've got our social reintegration framework that we are implementing that seeks to reposition our community corrections. We can work together to say our community corrections need to be well resourced, because in one of the presentations it's evident that there's an issue of lack of resources in some of the programs that Zim is engaging in. So we need to assist each other, advise each other to say we need the human resource. We need, if we go for technology in monitoring, how can we do that? And if we are we not invading the privacy of the various communities or individuals? Because within a household, it's not everybody who is a parolee. It's only one person. So others, their privacy may be invaded. And then we also need to be doing these conferences on a continuous basis, because we need to learn, relearn,
and unlearn some of the things.
And also we've got South Africans, even if I may not know, in Zim, as much as we've got Zimbabweans in South Africa. Some of them do commit crimes. So we need to work together to say, how do we trace those who have absconded back to Zim? And how do we assist those who are still there and struggling? How do we assist them to get back? And reoffending is increasing. How do we reduce reoffending? And you know, if as countries we talk one language, we'll definitely end crime in our
societies.
And on that integration note, I actually remember that yesterday there was a presentation that was made that if a Zimbabwean inmate based in South Africa is released on parole, they are deported back to their country, but there is no supervision. Maybe the supervision when they are deported to be on parole in their country. I think those are some of the areas that we may then need to work around just to make sure that one who is released on parole, deported back to their country, the supervision is then tight to make sure that they serve until they complete their parole.
Yes, that's true. We indicated during the presentation that as a country, we are also reviewing our legislation. That should also be included there to say what is it that we need to do with those that are from other countries who are who are granted parole, and because they only have got 1 or 2 conditions, never to return to South Africa, and we always find them within few days
back in the country.
So we are definitely going to work towards that, and we will work together with Zim and other countries to assist each other regarding that.
Thank you very much. I got insightful issues here today. Businesses assisting parolees, government assisting parolees,
true,
just in making sure that there is no reoffending. Zimbabwe can learn from that. That was Madam Zodwa Bimtetwa.
And you don't forget, ma'am, they are also helping the victims of crime.
They are also
primary and secondary victims and the entire communities.
Great work indeed. That was Madam Zodwa Bimtetwa, Acting Chief Deputy Commissioner for Community Corrections. She is also Deputy Commissioner for Social Reintegration in South Africa. 2 posts. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
If we may call our meeting to order, please.
Embalela mwene gonkunda. Nongono logana na kuya tuningina rengo.
progress in building a functional parole system? And maybe from your experience, what can we learn as Zimbabwe in building our own parole framework?
Thank you. I think any parole system must begin by addressing the paramount question of mischief. What would be the mischief that you will be attempting to deal with? So from that perspective, our journey began many years back when we began to grapple with the problem of overcrowding.
In prisons.
In prisons. Even though a parole system is not functionally designed to deal with overcrowding, it simply promotes safety in the whole value chain of population management, from incarceration all the way into reintegration. Inherently, it does address the problem of overcrowding.
Indeed, very much so.
So our journey began with, I think, of course, with overcrowding. It began with us engaging the political leadership to begin to become aware that this is a governance issue. It's a human rights issue, and then of course we got their support. And then when we got their support, it was then easy for us, playing the role of the devil's advocate, to begin to address the legislative requirements that would make parole functional. And so we went about doing the laws, and eventually did have a parole system. And of course, we had a lot of donor support at the time, who also helped us to establish not only a parole system, but also to set up a secretariat from which we're going to run the system. That's about 2008, effectively. But of course, our inquiries began as way back as 2002, 2001, thereabouts.
When you were Commissioner General?
No, that time we were small boys in the system.
All right.
Yeah.
So you have seen it all, like I said. You have seen it all. And how successful has it been, your parole system, ever since you implemented it? Considering that it was solving overcrowding as much as it was solving the reintegration issues?
It's a progressive system.
Yeah.
There is a place we want to be, but we've got to walk the process. And we are contributing towards moderating the prison population. So we are now at the point where we are gaining community confidence, and we are also gaining confidence from the correctional system as well as the general public, in order that as we accelerate parole, we have, the buy-in from all stakeholders. So we are, as of this year, we have released well over 1,500 inmates at various points into the community, supervised, and we've only had one revocation. So it's a process.
1 out of 1,000?
Yes.
That's quite successful.
Yes, it is successful.
Well done.
Successful. Because
well done.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, as the chairperson of the National Parole Board, what mechanism does Zambia use to ensure fairness, 1, transparent, 2, accountability, 3, in the parole decision processes? So we want to know how you do that, so that as Zimbabwe we can learn from that. Those mechanisms that you use can then assist Zimbabwe as we are going to be implementing that. The 3 factors that are key, really.
So there's fairness, accountability, and transparency. So in terms of fairness, every eligible applicant is given a fair shot, and the criteria or eligibility is prescribed. So it's an objective standard rather than a subjective standard that we use.
And
so,
just briefly, how is it like?
So when somebody is coming to parole, first and foremost, must be pre-qualified in terms of sentence that is being served. There is no offense that does not qualify. Safe to say, we are going to be looking at certain pertinent factors, such as the gravity of the offense, the remarks that the court may have made at the time of sentencing. We'll look at the victim. If a victim has any objection, we will look at the likelihood of the applicant complying with the conditions that we set, among others. And of course, of paramount consideration will be public safety. And public safety, broadly speaking, is this individual likely to recidivate or to reoffend whilst serving? So, from
the fairness perspective.
From a fairness, maybe the fairness also crosses over into transparency and also accountability. We are accountable to the public. The public is free to comment on the work that we do. We have oversight from a minister, and our work is also audited. So I think the three major strands are interrelated. So when we are addressing accountability, we are also addressing transparency, and we're also addressing fairness. And fairness, we now have to give a reason where, for instance, we do not grant parole, in order that we are also accountable not only to the public, but we're also accountable to the applicant or the parole applicant per se. It must not be arbitrary. We want an applicant to appreciate the reasons that would have made him or her not qualified to go. And if they have an opportunity to make amends, they can then proceed to correct what had not been addressed.
So you mentioned the issue of the victim being part of it and accepting that the offender gets parole. So if the victim is going to insist that they should not get, how do you deal with that? Or you go through a process with them to make them see the need for the offender to get parole?
The important thing is that before an eligible applicant applies, they will have had contact as part of the procedural preparation for discharge or for reintegration. So one of the processes will require some kind of peace building between the offender and the victim. Sometimes there's actually no victim because the primary victim would not be there, would have succumbed maybe even to injuries or died in the process. So whoever, whether it be secondary or they will have been engaged before, so that they appreciate the need either to forgive, if at all they can. It's not forced on them, it's voluntary. But the process will prepare them, and it will show the benefits of restoring harmony between themselves, so that should a victim get discharged, they should not react with shock. There should no longer be any fear of getting harmed. Agreed. And they should have an assurance that they have the full protection of a law. Yep.
Yeah, that's quite clear. So one of the major challenges in parole would be balancing public safety and the goal of rehabilitation. How has Zambia managed to balance that and as you are recommending to Zimbabwe?
Right. The correctional system has to do a very effective job. They have to assess the risks of reoffending. They have to address the needs of an individual. Once those two are addressed, the risk, what predisposes this individual to reoffending, to offending per se, and what needs to be done in order to address those. Once these have been effectively addressed through counseling, psychosocial, and psychological intervention. Sometimes you have to look at the personality issues.
Indeed.
When you have looked at issues to do with vocational skills, when you have looked at issues to do with other rehabilitative programs, you will be assured that this individual has been prepared to re-enter society. So once you have addressed this, you have inherently addressed the public safety aspect of it, because then you'd have given this individual the ability to know what makes them offend and to address that, because it's a compass that every human being ought to have and to be able ultimately to choose to do right and to stay right.
I love that statement. We had an earlier interview with an ex-inmate, and they were speaking about that.
Yeah.
The decision lies within a person.
That's right.
Indeed. So community acceptance can often determine whether parolees get to reintegrate successfully into the society or not. Usually the issues of acceptance into the communities, into families, meeting victims. So Zambia engage in communities. How do you engage in communities and making sure that the families, the local structures accept these offenders, or parolees rather?
Thankfully, the Zambia Correctional Service, I think, has done a good job with regards to building confidence in prospective re-entrants. Besides being prepared, they prepared vocationally or otherwise, they are also prepared to look out for stigma. And that stigma should not be a deterrence. It's a natural reaction of the public to not want to have anything to do with ex-offenders. There's nothing you can do about it, but you have to rely on yourself, not on the opinion of others. So, that said, there's also a lot of community engagement through different institutions, one of them being the church, to help provide a soft landing. And also, the Zambia Correctional Service has formed some form of cooperatives for individuals who have been in conflict with the law, so that as they go out, notwithstanding the difficulty they're going to have or to face, they can have some means of generating income for their livelihood. Right. Yeah.
Right, so as we close this, given your experience at both the operational and the leadership levels in the Zambia Correctional Services, how do you see the continued cooperation between Zambia and Zimbabwe contributing to a stronger and more harmonized parole system as we go forward?
Zambia and Zimbabwe have been said to be Siamese twins, and we are grateful to Commissioner General Chiovu for his generosity in bringing on board the Zambia Correctional Service and indeed the Zambia National Parole Board right from the time, I think, when they were just beginning to discuss the legislation. So there's a very strong relationship between the Zambia Correctional Service and our systems and the Zimbabwe prison correction systems. So we're looking forward to stronger collaboration, and already what Zimbabwe is doing is raising curiosity in us to want to see how it will end, because I think it surely is going to be something admirable, and it's something we will also be interested to continue to learn from as Zambia. So we're looking forward to a stronger relationship going ahead.
Well done, Commissioner Chihovu and team. We are hearing here from the National Parole Board chairperson from Zambia Correctional Services, Mr. Lloyd Chilundika. He is saying they are looking forward to the successful implementation of this in Zimbabwe. He is saying, Commissioner Chihovu and your team, already this groundwork shows that you are heading somewhere. And well done to you, and thumbs up to the team. Thank you very much, sir.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Talumba.
Talumba loco.
Talumba loco. Thanks. Great.
2 days, but maybe with a different authority, that yes, we need to consult our SADC Secretariat for them to carry out a research and find out what are those challenges and what are those good practices which can be taken as a standard for parole in SADC. Whether we would agree to come up with a SADC protocol on parole, or we are just going to write a SOP on parole, which all member states will be a signatory to adopt that. Then we will know that then when someone is released on parole in Namibia to Angola or to South Africa, I have it first and foremost to inform my counterpart. Or I have to allow that person to pass that person to him for him to release that person and able to supervise that person during the period of parole or period of probation. I think with that standard, if we can work together and come there, we might solve our current problem.
Thank you, General, and apologies for you being forcefully removed. We welcome you back, and we shall not force you to attend tonight's event, but we shall welcome you gladly. Reflections from that response, we spoke about in Namibia, it makes reference in their policies to any person, which includes any person, whether national or a foreign national, and that they are subject to parole and probation, which is inherently has the same conditions. He spoke about standardizing procedures in terms of coming up with a SADC protocol on parole, which would help in terms of enforcement. Enforcement is a key issue when it comes to issues of parole, and we've been seeing the issue of enforcement coming up with various challenges. How do we monitor in terms of monitoring and supervision? We had discussions in terms of the role of technology and AI. This was an issue which was discussed, and it proved to be quite a contentious issue. How do we feel about it 3 days into the conference? Have we researched on it? Yesterday we had issues to do with human rights violations, where people were asking, what do you do with the chip if you insert, for example, a chip in order to monitor? Is that a human rights violation, or it's part of conducting effective supervision? What are our sentiments in this regard as we go about creating, hopefully, a SADC protocol on parole in terms of these issues? I see a hand up on the left. I recognize you. You may proceed.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. My question is related to IT, but with a specific focus on countries Zambia, Namibia, and Tanzania. With a specific focus on the fundamental attribution error, which propensity score matching formulas do you use to differentiate between dispositional causes of criminal behavior and situational causes of criminal behavior during the assessment process, and also in dealing with the breaches of parole guidelines by parolees? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. This is for Zambia, Tanzania, Namibia. The question is, how do you deal with situational analysis of criminal behavior in reference to the risk assessment? And secondly, how do you deal with the issue of breaches? I will start with Zambia.
Thank you for the question. However, I'll answer the last part regarding how we handle breaches. In an event of a breach by a parolee or one on license, should I say, the first thing that is done, and an investigation ought to be done to ascertain whether there is a breach or not, and then that report is submitted to the relevant body. In this case, for example, Parole. The board will receive that report pertaining to that breach. I continue. Okay. So the relevant body, in this case Parole, will receive, the Parole board will receive that report pertaining to that breach, and then depending on the recommendation that has been made by the body that was investigating, it's either the parole or the license will be revoked, or it will, they will revert to the original status of the inmate, that is with regard to continuing off the parole. So it's either it's revoked or goes back to serving the sentence on parole, considering the recommendation that has been made. But in the first instance, I should have mentioned, was that this person ought to be brought back into the facility while the investigation is being carried out. That's the procedure that is done when there is a breach in Zambia, unless something else.
Thank you for that response. I will allow the rest of the questions to be answered during the discussion section. If I can call upon Assistant Commissioner Paradzai to come and continue. I must wait. Okay. AI, it's deceiving me. We may start. My apologies, sir. In terms of the first question, which was to do with breaches, that was answered by Zambia. Tanzania, do you have any reflections in terms of the situational analysis of criminal behavior? For the question which was asked. They've left the room for now, which leaves Namibia. DCG, if you could walk us through the situational analysis of criminal behavior.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Every field has its way of doing things, its protocols, the right way that has been identified of doing things. And the field that we are talking about here is criminology. And in criminology, there are also certain established protocols in terms of how risk is to be identified. There are a number of life areas that, through decades of research, have been found to have a direct link with reoffending. Some of those relate to family relationships. They relate to areas such as employment and education. They relate to areas such as associates that the person is connected to. They relate to areas such as patterns of thinking, how they think, the patterns of behavior, the past criminal conduct, amongst others. So those areas are established. And if we do not follow those guidelines, then we are not doing what we are referring to as a risk assessment. If it has been found that to treat a certain condition, you have to take a certain cocktail of medications for that condition to be healed. And then you decide to take Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola makes you feel good. You might be making yourself feel good, but you are not treating that identified condition. So the way we go about it in Namibia is to follow the 12 criminogenic areas that have been established through years of research, and we assess our individuals based on those specified areas. Thank you very much.
Thank Thank you, DCG, for clarifying that position. Sir, I hope you are answered.
Now with the Tanzanian Prison Service, and we have Senior Assistant Commissioner Lipo Lipina Emmanuel. She is representing the Commissioner General. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, ma'am. Yeah. How are you?
Very well. So we have learned that Tanzania adopted the parole system as early as 1999. That's way back. And you started with 3 eligible prisoners. How has the system evolved? Just tell us about that journey for the past 25 years.
Oh, thank you very much. The journey for 25 years back, parole system in Tanzania is undergo, and almost with the major amendment is done by Parole Act number 5 of 2002. Is back from August 1999. The National Parole Board met and recommend only 5, scrutinize and peruse only 5 prisoners all over the prisons in Tanzania mainland, excluding Zanzibar. We are not including Zanzibar. And then, after scrutinizing and perusing all that 5 prisoners, only 3 were eligible for parole. Why? Only 3? We have a number of prisoners in our prisons. It's because of eligibility under that Prison Act number 25 of 1994. Means only prisoners eligible for parole should be sentenced within 8 years and above.
Okay.
That's the big reason why. And some of the offenses were excluded in that process of eligibility for parole. So, when National Parole Board noted this, recommend to the government to make some revision to at least to cover a big number of prisoners, and the government of Tanzania accept that recommendation, and then our Parole Board Act number 25 of 1994, revised by Parole Board Act number 5 of 2002. What's revision done in that act? Okay, instead of 8 years, reduced to 4 years, 8 years and above. A prison to be eligible for parole, reduced to 4 years and above. Okay. And then some revision also done there. He add offenses like manslaughter and robbery with violence. And then another revision done there, the prisoner must in their offenses should be in prison for 1/3 of his or her.
Oh, they should have
served 1/3 of their sentences.
Yes.
And then another thing, the prisoner should make sure he have good conduct in all the time he is serving the prison term.
Yes. Behavior.
So that's the big amendments done in our Tanzanian prison service according to Parole Board, parole system. That's the revision of Act number 25 of 1994 as revised by Act number 5 of 2002. Yes, but other conditions remain constant, like those who are serving life sentence that are not eligible, those who are the offenses is armed robbery, rape, dangerous drugs, and defilement, they are not involved. And then those who are sentenced are commuted. It means, what the meaning of commuted? You are in life sentence and then commuted to maybe 20 years. You are not involved in parole. And sometimes those who are involved in community service, they are not involved in parole. So other eligibility remain constant, but it's wide. That's a range of from 8 years to 4 years. That will happen. At least now, parole eligibility, those who are beneficiaries are at least the number is back. Yeah.
So this is well explained. It's actually, we have had you, there are certain categories of crimes that are not eligible for parole. That is quite clear. And also that certain conditions have been relaxed a bit in terms of years. So Tanzania is known for having recorded 0 cases in terms of absconding among parolees. What structures, monitoring strategies, community mechanisms have you put in place to make sure that you achieve such a remarkable compliance? For you to have 0 absconding on parolees, what have you done?
Yeah, from 1999, almost 26 years, only 55 parolee, they revoke parole condition and return back to prisons. But from 2006 up to today, no one revoked parole conditions. Why?
Wow.
Why?
From 2006?
No one. Almost 19 years.
Yes.
Nobody.
How is that possible?
Really, no.
How is that possible?
As you know, when you start, that's why you see the years back, there's 55.
Yeah.
You know, when you start, there is a lot of issues to learn. And as you go, you improve a lot.
Yes,
you have opportunities. Yes. So the only thing within parole to be effective, or parolees not to revoke parole condition, is close supervision. That's the only big deal. Close supervision. Just get contact with your parolee. That get contact with your families. That get contact with the friends, close relatives, community leaders, anybody within the parolee. Just get contact. That's the big deal with parolee, not to revoke parole condition.
But you give them jobs because they want to be economically viable. Do you give them jobs?
We don't give them jobs.
How do they sustain themselves economically?
Our parolees, to be eligible for parole, you have to go under rehab programs. Can be issue of vocational education, skills. So we cannot get you out when you're empty brain. You have something to start.
You empower them.
Yes, we empower them. Something to start. Even when you go back, if you don't even have any, maybe you are unskilled. You go with guts. You know how to go to farming. You are strong. You know how to.
So you do empowerment programs so that they are able to be self-sustainable.
Yes.
And as you supervise them, you supervise their projects as well, just to make sure that they are self-sustainable. That's quite critical. So let's just then speak about the community acceptance. We know that community acceptance is critical in parole success. And how have you been doing it in terms of engaging those traditional leaders, families? How have you been doing it to then have that 0 record of abscondees?
We keep in touch with our community during social inquiry. We go to our prisoners' homes. We go to the prisoners' families, where we get intact with our community leaders, religious leaders, where we get in touch, you cooperate, we share ideas with them. When they give any advice, we take it into consideration, where we manage to make sure our prisoners went back to the community, a little law-abiding, but the community also help us to continue rehabilitating our prisoners. The resistance for the community is there, for sure. Not all are ready
to accept parolees.
And most of our community, they like incarceration than. They be happy. Mostly is a victim of crime. They say, oh, no. This is my prisoner. This is my prisoner. No. I prefer to be in prison, not out. You know, what's happened, even though he said that, we go back to the prisoner, say, you're a victim feedback from the victim. Say, no, he's not or she's not ready. What we've done for him is, it's terrible. And then say, what's happened? Now you are able to go back to the community. And then make sure you live with your victim very peaceful, be humble, make sure you apologize. If there is any compensation, compensate on time, and then you'll be released earlier to make sure that you can clear everything. And then for victim of crime, we tell them, now your prisoner is back, even though you are not ready. That is the system and the government and the prisoner, and the prisons say that's the time for our prisoner to be back to the community. You see their families, you see their kids, they are just roaming about. We are not ready to produce another criminals. So as maybe if you are Christian or Muslim, you are responsible to forgive.
Yes, forgive.
So
To forgive.
we return back our prisoner even if you are not ready, and that you are part and parcel to rehabilitate him or her.
So the story of forgiveness is still revolving here. Victims need to forgive. You have to learn to forgive, learn to live with offenders, just learn to live together. So as we are closing this, let's just hear the practical lessons that you can give to Zimbabwe in these early stages of implementing this parole framework. What lessons, what advice would you give to Zimbabwe? You have seen it all, the pitfalls, you have gotten into them, the lessons you have learned from them, and you want Zimbabwe to avoid the same mistakes that you guys went in, that Tanzania went through. So just give us the nuggets, the advice that you can give Zimbabwe as they are starting this.
First of all, ZPCS is far away now. And what this conference done is a big deal for ZPCS. And then the Zimbabwe will do the best. And funny thing, we'll go back to study in Zimbabwe. You know what? Those open institutions, when you see how they operate open institutions, almost it's like parole.
Oh, the way they operate the open prisons.
Yes, they always practice parole. So the gap for Zimbabwe to have effective parole is to make sure eligibility is very flexible, especially for grave and sensitive offenses, for long-timers. Don't close the same. Make sure the legislative is not much frustrated to some of prisoners. Let's open the room for all prisoners to be eligible for parole, but the conditions should be varied. Maybe for those who are lifetimers, who just keep some condition. If you've been in prison to more than 25 years, you'll be eligible for parole. And then you just set some ways of supervision. Maybe supervision for this life imprisonment will be maybe 1 year, and then you'll be free. That's the way the Zimbabwe can do for effective parole system. They just learn from other SADC region how they operate, but they have to come with their all new models. They just use those challenges and gaps and then come with very new model of operating parole system in Zimbabwe. And then we will come back, this is our SADC region, to learn back to Zimbabwe.
So I love the faith that you have with Zimbabwe, with our country. She is saying they will come back to learn from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
After implementing this so well, she's already happy with our open prisons, our open institutions. She's saying we are doing great work as Zimbabwe. So I'll still say, congratulations, Commissioner Chiwobwe and Tim. You are doing a great job with your team. And the countries that are here in Zimbabwe, they are learning lessons already from you as you are trying to implement this parole and reintegration system. They are learning certain lessons and they are loving it. Thank you very much. That was Senior Assistant Commissioner Limo Lipina Emmanuel from the Tanzania Prison Services. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I love Zimbabwe.
She loves Zimbabwe, yay!
And the people of Zimbabwe, their teamwork
is magnificent.
Yes.
On another level. Remain like that, Zimbabweans. You are loved.
Thank you very much. Karibu Tanzania.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. I would like to start off by recognizing our Permanent Secretary, Madam V. Nyemba, our Commissioner General, MC and Dr. Chuobu, and all Commissioner Generals who are here present, senior officers from Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Services, and all esteemed delegates. I'm sure I had already started my presentation, but for the purpose of our esteemed Permanent Secretary and our esteemed Commissioner General, allow me to start from where I left. Permanent Secretary, Madam, when I started, I had asked the esteemed guest that a question which is always asked by our Commissioner General, that what kind of a prison do you want? And as well, to tell your neighbor that you are a potential inmate. Today, as we gather here today, we have made history in Zimbabwe as we make the pathway to reintegration of all convicted offenders into the society. In that regard, my job is very simple. Being the last presenter, everybody has made some significant contribution to our journey towards making legislation which is meaningful, which is non-discriminatory, which encompasses all convicted persons in our prison system. So in that regard, I don't want to waste much of your time or to regurgitate what has been said already by all our esteemed presenters. My job is just to try and give you an overview of the legal framework of parole in Zimbabwe and the takeaways which we want to borrow from the expertise which you presented to us in this house. Then going forward, the takeaways are also going to contribute to the legislation or the drafting of the parole regulations which is ongoing. So my title is Zimbabwe Parole Legal Framework and Key Takeaways. The scope of my outline will go by an introduction, international standards and best practices, Zimbabwe Parole Legal Framework. There is a local classical case which addressed the mischief which we want to address today. It cited case law, Prison and Correctional Service Act, Chapter 723, operationalization of parole legal system, key takeaways, way forward, and conclusion. Parole is a conditional release of an inmate from prison, allowing them to serve the remainder of their sentence under supervision in the community aimed at rehabilitation and reintegration. I want to tell you this, for the past 29 years in Zimbabwe, parole was provided in terms of the Repealed Prison Act of 1996, Section 113. This provision was very discriminatory in nature. It only allowed inmates who would have been convicted and sentenced to what we call an extended term of imprisonment. It excluded the rest of the convicted persons. And in 29 years, you can also imagine that only 13 inmates benefited from that parole. That is the statistics I got from our research desk, which means that the parole system was totally ineffective. So this is the mischief we want to address today. The regulation and the Prison Act provisions in terms of parole is addressing that malfunction of that abrogated law which was ineffective. It was a very narrow and limited, and was only available to inmates serving extended sentences, which is discriminatory. I'm sure I've emphasized on this one. The new Prison Correctional Service Act, Chapter 723, Section 137 provides for a modern, inclusive, and non-discriminatory parole system, aligned with the Zimbabwe Constitution and international best standards and best practices. I'm sure all the countries here have shown us their best practices, which we are going to tap into, and also not forgetting the international soft law, where we also borrow the principles and develop to become domesticated laws of our country. So in this regard, we will take a niche from all what you have presented as we move forward. As we go by the journey of drafting the parole regulations, we won't forget that there are some international standards where all countries abide to. And while we domesticate the international standards, this is the process. In Zimbabwe, we domesticate international standards for it to become effective laws. So in the process of doing that, we are also looking into the listed international standards or a soft law which all guides us. I don't want to regurgitate the provisions. The Zimbabwe Parole Legal Framework, we will start off from the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Section 227 establishes ZPCS, which is mandated to provide the protection of society, incarceration of offenders, rehabilitation, and my emphasis is on reintegration, as been highlighted. Yes, in the past years, we have been rehabilitating inmates within our prison system, but this is a step forward. This is an extension of rehabilitation, where the communities where the inmates come from now has a hand, now has some input, now has some contribution to the rehabilitation of inmates. Because it was not just enough for us to let an inmate embark on various rehabilitation programs without making sure that when he enters or re-enters or reintegrates into the society, he becomes a meaningful citizen who would have earned certain skills to develop our nation. So in that trust, it is our guided view that as we implement this parole system, it is going to be a meaningful move or a meaningful gesture to our community, and it is our expectation that the communities themselves are also going to embrace the parole system and develop it as we move forward. Maybe specific sections which we need not to forget from the Constitution of Zimbabwe is Section 56, which talks about equality and non-discrimination. As I have mentioned earlier on, the Repealed Act was discriminatory in nature, hence the realignment process goes by following the tenets of Section 56. Also, Section 51 of the Constitution, human rights, human dignity and respect is also a fundamental principle which you also observe as we draft our legislation. Also, Section 53, protection against physical and psychological torture. It's also a very important aspect which we need also to make sure that it is aligned with the provisions of the regulations which we are drafting. Then Section 49, right to personal liberty. Also, the Constitution also emphasized that the right to liberty is one of the most important or fundamental principle which whatever we do as government agencies or people who deal with the liberty of people, we should make sure that it is done following due processes and only applied when it is necessary. So it is important that when someone is incarcerated, you also have the hope to be go into the community in a free world and enjoy the liberty like the rest of the citizens, whilst maybe probably under supervision.
So we have 10 countries that came to the Zimbabwe prisons and Correctional Services Parole and Reintegration Conference, 10 regional countries. I have spoken to some of the representatives of the countries, and now I have Malawi with me, Malawi Prison Service. I have Council Assistant Superintendent Vincent Selungwe, and he is going to tell us the Malawi story. How are you, sir?
Good, and you?
I'm very well. So we understand that Malawi has already developed a legislation to pave way for the similar parole system. What really has motivated Malawi to take this parole route, and what guided the drafting of that act?
Thank you very much. Let me begin by saying thank you very much for actually giving me this opportunity to explain on the parole system in Malawi as far as law is concerned. Mm-hmm. Based on the question that you've just posed, what actually triggered to include the provision for parole system in Malawi was the problem of congestion. Congestion triggered to actually adopt the parole system like other countries because it will give a possibility of early release of inmates who actually qualify for the parole. That will reduce that congestion that I've talked about.
And when you speak of congestion, you're speaking of prisons congestion.
Prison congestion or overcrowding of prisons.
You're right. Yes. And what are the key priorities that really guided that drafting of that act for you to say we are doing this?
It's a human rights principles or human rights-based approach. It's the one that actually guided. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, in the drafting, we are trying to bring our prison act in line with international standards.
Indeed.
So those are the guiding principles that we use to come up with the parole provisions for Malawi.
Okay, so since Malawi is currently in the pre-implementation phase, which is similar to Zimbabwe, what have been your main lessons, your challenges, your insights during this whole transitional period?
Thank you very much. The first challenge was regarding to the act itself. It took time for the act to actually be enacted and come into force. Mm-hmm. For your information, our act came into force on 18th August 2025.
Just recently?
Just recently. That is the main challenge. However, despite it came into force on the date that I've mentioned, what actually started first is the functional review. Our functional review created what you call community service correction, under which parole system falls as a unit. So what we actually did, even before the act, we started making awareness for our staff of what is coming, both the staff, inmates, as well as the community. Now, in the course of making awareness, there were some experience, negative as well as positive experiences. One of the experience from the inmates, they actually welcomed it positively, saying that it will actually give them an opportunity to go out before even finishing their sentences. However, they also expressed negative. They were worried, or they less the concern to say they distrusted the system itself, to say there might be bias within the system that may make other people not actually to benefit from the same.
Also the issues of fairness.
Yes, fairness. Similarly, the staff also have positive and negatives. On the positive side, they said it will help to reduce overcrowding. But on the negative part, they were saying it may even increase corruption. To say maybe these inmates may corrupt officers so that those inmates who are not qualifying may qualify and find their way out. Similarly, the community also expressed positive and negative. On the positive side, they were saying, okay, this is a welcome idea because it will give a possibility for their relatives to actually come out before the completion of the sentence. But at the same time, they were also worried to say, if you release those people, they will be in safety of the community. Because some of these prisoners who may actually said to have qualified for parole may not have been exactly changed. So they may pose a threat to the security of the community. Yes.
And how have you managed to explain, to overcome the challenges, to explain to everybody who was not comfortable with this? Are you still in the process? Have you managed to convince communities? Have you managed to convince the employees around the issues of corruption? Have you managed to convince even inmates around their insecurities, around the whole processes?
Exactly. We have done that, as I mentioned, to say, through the same awareness, we have tried as much as possible to make sure that they understand what the law provides. When it comes to the process itself, the law provides the process that is supposed to be done before someone actually is considered for parole, and the conditions that are attached to the parole itself. So among the conditions, we say, when someone qualifies to be released on parole, is not just left to go, but will be under supervision. So it is that supervision that will actually reduce their fear of insecurity. But at the same time, the center point is rehabilitation. So the one who is actually considered to be released on parole, he or she has to show that he has been rehabilitated. So he undergoes that process up to the point where he's released. Not only that, whilst on release, will be actually be under supervision. So that has actually made them to actually understand and address their fears.
All right. Having participated in this conference, you have learned from countries that have mature parole systems, that have done this before, that are actually running this successfully. What are the elements and strategies that you believe Malawi could adopt for a stronger parole system back at your country?
Thank you very much. From the discussion and the presentation, what I have taken as a very, very important, the center of parole is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation has to be effective rehabilitation. And for it to be effective, before someone is placed on rehabilitation, assessment. Assessment is very, very important because it is that assessment who help to place a particular prisoner on the right rehabilitation program. Then from there, assessment has to be done whether indeed that person has been rehabilitated. and then parole is granted. So I think that's the one that can actually help to have effective parole system. Besides that, the coordination between the prison and the community is also very important, and other stakeholders, because from their presentation, it's not one-man show to say this is for the correction service. It requires, again, to include other stakeholders, including the community itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Traditional leaders, churches, and everyone.
Everyone.
So as we are closing, given that both Malawi and Zimbabwe are at the similar points of developing those parole frameworks, what do you see as the opportunities of collaboration between Malawi and Zimbabwe, since we are at the same wavelength at the moment?
Thank you very much. And I was really happy listening or hearing to say Zimbabwe again is on the stage that we are ourselves. So I was thinking to say, in our case, we're just developing the regulations. You know, the Act does not contain everything. It requires what you call enabling laws for it to operate. Operationalization of the Act depends on the regulations. So as we are developing the regulations, Zimbabwe is also developing the regulations. We can actually share the knowledge to come up with something that can actually really help to enforce the Act effectively. Besides that, from their presentation, there was a very important question that was raised to say we have foreigners. In this case, assuming someone is a Zimbabwean serving the sentence in Malawi, and he qualifies for parole. What should be done? Because this person is supposed to be supervised, and yet is a foreigner. He's supposed to go to Zimbabwe. What should be done? I think there must be MOUs to actually collaborate so that when a prisoner or an inmate in Malawi qualifies for parole, he can be granted that parole in conjunction with Zimbabwe, so that he can go to Zimbabwe and continue to be supervised on that. So to me, I found it to be very important.
Yes, it is.
So those are the areas that we can actually collaborate.
Thank you very much. I love the excitement already, even in the voice. That you are in good trajectory, good progress that you are making there. So this was Council Assistant Superintendent Vincent Selungwe from Malawi Prison Service. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
When we were drafting the regulations, we never thought about this, but this workshop clearly gave us a different, diverse view that we need to take serious the use of AI and data models to enhance our parole system. I want to give thanks to the research institutions which presented and gave us these insights. There is also another institution which also gave us parole regulations must comply with human rights. I'm sure it is the Human Rights Commission. Yes, indeed, as I have mentioned earlier on, we are guided by the Constitution of Zimbabwe. We are also guided by our international soft law, the conventions, the treaties, and we have always given a very big eye to make sure that we are in compliance with the human rights tenets. The need to balance the use of monitoring technology, electronic tracking devices, and to ensure the observance of human rights. Yes, technology. I'm sure going forward, it is important that we embrace technology to try and monitor using gadgets to control and manage parole system. Yes, human capital is needed to assist in the supervision, but it makes or reduces our budgets if we are able to invest in technology. Also, I also want to recognize the academias, the universities, the deans of various institutions which we invited. Quite a number of presenters made significant contributions, but maybe just to outline what we feel is in context with the parole system, which we feel we may need going forward to expand. They mentioned that interventions must be tailored and scientifically evidence-based, focusing on crime-specific realities. I'm sure this came from criminologists and other professionals. So this is a very important point, that we need to develop tools which can scientifically measure what we are doing, or scientifically measure the thrust or the impact of having a parole system in Zimbabwe. So maybe we also engage them as we go along, develop these tools to assess ourselves. Then there was also a mention of national security must be considered paramount alongside public safety when an inmate is released on parole. I'm sure this emanated from the fact that maybe army personnel who would have been incarcerated for various offenses, how do we handle them? Is it safe to release them into the communities, or they are excluded or discriminated on the basis of them being coming from court-martial? So I think this is an issue for further deliberations, whether in Zimbabwe we are going to take the route of considering the army personnel for parole, or we discriminate them on that basis. It's still work in progress, and we are sure that by the end of the day we would have deliberated on the issue and make sure which position are we taking for purposes of coming up with our legislation. Supervision is the core component of any parole system and must be robustly modeled. Hence, the use of AI is totally inevitable going forward. I'm sure they also reiterated what the institutions mentioned. The level and intensity of supervision must be relative to the length of original sentence. This was also an issue which we think was of importance to us. For foreign nationals, a mechanism must ensure continuous supervision, proposing a regional supervision model or a domestic completion model. This is one area which we think
countries that have come to the Zimbabwe prisons and correctional services parole and reintegration conference, and we now have Eswatini. We have Commissioner General Pindile Lamakosini Lamini, His Majesty's Correctional Service, Eswatini. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm very well. So we are going to be learning from Eswatini. We love learning. You can always, if you're open-minded, you can always learn from everyone.
Every country, there's something you have to get, even if it's small as it is.
Exactly. So we are ready to learn. We have learned already, and our audiences are ready to learn. So you have a program that's called EPE, Extramural Penal Employment. So we want to know what that is. You don't have a parole system like the one that's being spoken about at this parole conference, but you have this program, the Extramural Penal Employment. What is it all about? Just detail it so that our audiences can know it.
The Extramural the EPE program that we have in Eswatini is a type of program where we are trying to decongest our institutions, whereby you are looking at the inmates who have served, left with 2 years, and who qualify, or else we've just been sentenced, and the sentence that you're having doesn't necessarily need you to be inside prisons. Okay. So that's when we use the EPE program in Eswatini. And thereby, because the numbers that we're having are quite high, and it has helped us a lot, because we do release those people to be in their communities. What we do is with EPE, we do the interviews, we identify the persons whom we think qualify, and then we do have a board that conducts interviews to that individual. And then if that person qualifies, that's when we go to the community, to where he was, which is area of abode, where we meet with the parents, we meet with the chiefs, we meet with the elders of the community, and then we discuss the issue of him, that we want to send him back to the community where he needs to stay at home, and then we identify a place where he can go and serve until he completes his sentence or her sentence.
But it's just like similar to the parole system from the explanation that you're giving me. How different is it from the parole system that you have been speaking about from Monday?
It's a trial and error, where we had to decide that we need to do something other than sit with them inside, whereby it's an expense on the government and it's a waste of the people's time, because we're trying to avoid them getting used to prison life and then maybe liking it and then going back. When they get released, they go back home and then come back again.
Yes, they hadn't.
It's more or less, yes, it's true that it's more or less like the parole system. But right now we're saying we don't have parole because this is the only system that we're using. But of course, it's working for us for now.
It should work because it's very similar to the parole system that we've been hearing about. Maybe having come to Zimbabwe to share your experiences, what aspects of EPE program do you think could provide useful lessons to Zimbabwe as it develops its parole system?
Zimbabwe is way ahead than us as Eswatini. And coming here has helped us a lot as Eswatini. And yes, they can learn a lot from our EPE too. Because right now what I liked in Zimbabwe is their institution where they are keeping them, where open prison system that they're having. Yes, it's more or less the same as that. But for me, the person is staying outside. I'm not giving him any food. He's just dependent on the family, and he's having a place where they're having a place. They're placing him. I'm placing that person for myself too. But the thing is, and it's a longer period. 2 years. The open prison is more or less 6 months or less for now. But I think they're going to develop them, increase the number of months as it grows. But otherwise, it's more or less similar. But for me, this one is working better for now.
Well done. So this conference has exposed Eswatini to regional parole systems. You have learned from Namibia, South Africa, Zambia. What insights or ideas have you gained that could influence or enhance the future offender rehabilitation programs in your country?
I've learned a lot. And when this conference was introduced that they're going to have, I said, please don't leave me. I'll be part of the attendance.
And it is worth your while.
It is. Because right now, I'm in the process of having a rehabilitation policy. So we're in the process of completing it. And what I've gained is going to contribute a lot into that policy. And learning from Namibia, South Africa has also helped me a lot. And I'm still going to send some officers to come and do a benchmarking again.
Wow.
To sit down and discuss.
Well
so
done.
that we can have something similar to them, but that's going to help us as Maswati.
Wow. So I love the excitement already that you have around what we're doing in Zimbabwe, as much as we are working on improving our systems as well. So how does the EPE program ensure that community is safe? So community safety, even from this parole conference, the pre-interviews that were done, people are worried about safety.
Yes.
So from your EPE program, how have you ensured that safety is maintained in the communities that these offenders are going into?
I strongly believe that working with elders of the communities where the people stay has more enhanced their safety. And then why we involve the community leaders? Because we start with the regional administrators of the regions, whereby we visit the chiefdoms and tell them about life in prison and what we do in prison. And we've told them several times that they need to accept these people when they live here, because most of them have undergone some of the treatment programs and they've done a lot of these rehabilitation programs where they've learned different skills. So our taking them back to their community, by then, people, they know what they're expecting from them. And before they leave, we sit down and discuss with them, telling them how they have to behave in their community. Of course, when they go back, others are still shying away from them. But that they have to understand, that it's not easy to accept somebody from prison.
Yes, that there's the stigmatization part of this whole thing.
And again, knowing that they have not finished their sentence, they still question that why this one was sentenced yesterday, now he's roaming around with us. So meeting the elders assist us in doing that. So their safety is really considered, and again, they are more or less accepted with minor.
With a pinch of salt.
Exactly. But otherwise, that's how we've maintained the safety of the community. And again, we always say if the person is not comfortable with staying at home, she has to report back to us, because we do check them now and again, how they're coping, what are they still attending their working areas, and then if there's a problem, we easily identify it, and if he needs to come back to prison, we do.
And do you have scenarios of people that request to be taken back to prisons?
One or two, but others stop going to work, and that's when we have to take them back. Yes, but it's 1 against 5.
And the reoffending part, when they are out, do they reoffend? Your percentages of reoffending?
Not whilst they're under the program. But of course, we do have the offending of inmates, whether they're under the program, not under the program. Most of them are those who don't undergo the program. They re-offend and they come back.
All right, so as we are closing, we just want to learn in terms of collaboration. Eswatini continues to explore new rehabilitation approaches. How important is this regional collaboration in learning from other countries' experiences with parole and reintegration? And what specific partnerships would you like to see strengthened? So it's just about learning from each other.
We really love these partnerships. And these benchmarking exercises, they help a lot for the department to grow. Most of the things that we do in our correctional or prison institutions are more or less similar. You find that here they're doing baking, they're baking, we also do the baking. There's with the programs of rehabilitation, they're doing tailoring and everything.
Tailoring, yes.
All of those things we do even in our own countries. Why? It's because we do the benchmarkings and we talk about these things. We tell each other, we advise each other, go and start this program, it's going to assist you. And what we are supposed to do, talk to the government, and the government assist us. What I can say, government of Eswatini has never said no to benchmarking exercises. So these meetings, we always tell them that they are quite important because we learn from each other.
Indeed.
And then we do a lot of supporting each other. When we've got some things that we're to example, when we are having another meeting, we call each other the SADC, I've got these meetings for the rehabilitation officers. Let them meet. They send officers to for them to share ideas. That's how we grow and learn as corrections.
And as we are closing, what are the issues that have excited you in Zimbabwe that you're saying you're going to be implementing or proposing to implement?
It's the open prison. Number 1, yes. And the agricultural section.
The agricultural section.
Sustenance, yes. I've been talking about that at home, that we really don't need to buy, especially maize, which is a staple food too. That we have to plant, we have to provide by ourselves. Let's buy what we can buy. It's only rice and some things that we cannot provide. But otherwise, in Zimbabwe, I'm quite impressed with all the programs that are doing. And sending my farming sections very soon. I want them to get some lessons from them.
Well done. So that's Commissioner General Pindile Lamakosini Dlamini. Many lessons learned, the open prison, the farming projects, and obviously many similar projects, rehabilitation programs that are in Eswatini that are also in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Madam. We appreciate your coming in Zimbabwe.
And I also appreciate meeting you and being in Zimbabwe. As Zimbabwe is a friend to Eswatini, I really love being in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Slide. Violent offenders would have to serve half of their sentence before they qualify. This is a law which speaks to the sensitivity of crime. That when we look into the parole considerations, the violent offenders needs to have been properly supervised to determine whether they are still violent or not. So to us, it also makes sense. The judge will consider compensation for victim. I'm sure this is also similar to what we discussed. It's a very important aspect. Well, thank you very much, Mozambique, for these insightful presentations. Namibia. Yeah, the emphasis is like what has been mentioned by our institutions and academia, that without a centralized digital database for all inmates, it's very difficult to implement and manage a parole system. I'm sure this House would agree that this is a very important aspect to start from. Electronic case management system, it is almost impossible to implement parole effectively without establishing an electronic offender management system. They also emphasize that there is need to have, not to have a fully fledged parole system on the launch, but we need to roll it out slowly by having pilot projects and develop instruments to measure our success or evaluate as we move forward. If we get positive results through scientific tools which measure success, then we can expand it gradually so that the embracing of the parole system by the community becomes a smooth pathway to reintegration. Crucial role of community leaders. Community leaders play a crucial role in the management and implementation of the parole due process. This has been also mentioned by Botswana, that the community leaders, the chiefs, the headmen, and the district administrators are very important in the process of reintegration. Volunteer supervisors suggested enlisting volunteer community supervisors initially while preparing the budget. As you are aware that rolling out a project is very expensive, but the idea of employing volunteer supervisors as an initial step to implement parole is also a very good idea, which we think needs to be part of our regulations as well. Convicted inmates by court-martial benefit from parole without restriction from the sentencing court. This also a very important aspect, as I have mentioned earlier on, why we think it is important to do so.
Services. You will forgive me for that one. Our question here to Commissioner General would be, Angola has operationalized the parole system already. Just give us an overview of the system, how it works, and the key principles that guides your parole system in Angola.
Relativamente o quê? Vai fazer perguntas sobre os serviços penitenciários de Angola.
Yeah, so can you give us the overview of the parole system in Angola, how it's happening, because you have implemented it already in your country?
Gostaríamos de saber como é que tem sido usado o sistema de liberdade condicional em Angola, porque fizeram uma apresentação falando sobre ele.
Muito obrigado e boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Dizer que de facto nós estamos aqui para isto.
To say that we are here for this, to talk about parole.
Fomos convidados para
we were invited
a nossa experiência,
to talk about our experience about parole.
Uma vez que Angola já implementa esse sistema há algum tempo.
Knowing that Angola is just implementing this system of parole for a long period of time.
Há uma lei penitenciária.
There is a penitentiary law
que regula todo esse sistema de liberdade condicional.
That take cares about the paroles.
E, portanto, já data desde 2014.
Since 2014.
e o sistema funciona normalmente.
And this system just works in a normal way.
All right. What strategies or mechanisms have Angola used to ensure that parolees comply with conditions and that public safety is maintained?
Quais são os sistemas que Angola usa que garantem que o sistema de liberdade condicional é usado de forma dos melhores métodos?
Mais eficaz.
Exato.
Portanto, o sistema penitenciário,
Angola Penitentiary Service,
desde o momento que o preso entra,
since the moment that the inmates come to us,
mesmo na condição de detido,
even in condition of detentor,
começa o trabalho de acompanhamento psicológico.
We've been following the prisoner's movement while the period he's in the prison.
E há uma comissão multidisciplinar.
There is a team
que acompanha o preso.
They take care about controlling the inmates.
Uma vez condenado,
once he sentenced,
a nossa lei prevê que ele pode se beneficiar da liberdade condicional.
Our laws, Angolan law, says that he can benefit parole.
Todo preso com mais de seis meses de cadeia em diante.
All the prisoners, all the inmates that are just in a penitentiary setting for more than 6 months in a penitentiary setting.
O trabalho da liberdade condicional, quando começa a partir do cumprimento de quarto da pena.
Parole process started when the inmate just in a penitentiary setting for a part of the sentence.
A partir de quarto da pena, ele é testado em trabalho, é enquadrado em trabalho socialmente útil.
During this period, after this period, the inmate is going to be included in social works in a penitentiary setting.
E pode, neste âmbito, pode ter uma liberdade, passe extrapenal.
And according to this, the inmate is going to have the permission to go out.
Ou seja, é uma antecâmara para a liberdade condicional.
This is just some kind of a process that the inmate has before the parole.
Onde o preso, de acordo com a nossa proposta ao juiz,
were inmate according to our opinion for the court.
Ele pode ser dispensado de 20 a 60 dias durante o ano.
He can be out of the prison for 20 or 60 days during the years.
Este é o período de preparação para que quando ele atinja a metade da pena,
this is the method we use so that when the prisoner achieves the 50% of the sentence,
em função do seu comportamento,
according to his behavior,
o seu enquadramento na atividade de artes e ofício,
according to the activity he makes in the penitentiary setting,
a participação neste período da família também, o envolvimento da família nesse processo de reintegração.
It's also important to say that the prisoners' families is also involved in this system, in this project.
Inclusive a própria comunidade.
Including the community.
Quando assim é,
in this case,
nós estamos em condições de propor a liberdade condicional ao juiz.
We have the condition to make to go to a court and talk about this method, to talk about the situation of the inmate.
Ou seja, ao Tribunal de Execução de Penas.
Or in the court.
Uma vez concedido,
once the prisoner has this right,
este recluso é acompanhado quer pela comunidade,
This inmate is going to be next to the community. Community are going to help penitentiary service doing this kind of activity, this kind of
Pelos
work.
nossos especialistas.
For our workers, penitentiary officers.
E também a participação da própria família.
And the participation of inmates' families.
Ou seja, vão fazendo uma série de inquéritos na comunidade, no seio da família, para saber como é que está o comportamento deles, se já está enquadrado na sociedade, se não, trabalha, não trabalha, o que é que faz e o que é que o governo pode ajudar.
According to this, penitentiary officers are going to go around the community to know the behavior of the inmate during this period.
E também a polícia, ele deve, enquanto estiver nesse período de liberdade condicional, deve se apresentar 30 em 30 dias à polícia, para estar seguro que ele está na comunidade e tem comportamento digno, aceitável naquele meio.
During this period that the inmate is going to be out of the prison, he must be 17 days. At the end of the month, he's going to go to a police station to confirm that he is still there. He didn't get out of the country and didn't do anything wrong.
Então, todo esse processo nos dá garantia de que, de facto, estamos no caminho certo.
All this process gave us a guarantee that we are in a good way.
Thank you very much. That's quite clear. So as we are closing this, what recommendations can you give to Zimbabwe Commissioner General as we are starting our own parole system for it to be effective, for it to be credible? What recommendations can you give to Zimbabwe for it to be effective and for it to be credible?
Não. Esta conferência, de facto, vem ajudar.
This conference just come to help.
Vem ajudar o sistema de liberdade condicional zimbabuano.
This kind of conference come to help the Zimbabwe system of parole.
Esse período todo, desde segunda-feira até hoje, fomos interagindo.
This whole period we were discussing, we were talking about the parole.
Não só aqui na sala, mas também algumas visitas que fizemos às cadeias, que permitimos trocar experiência, né, de vários aspectos que nós fomos constatando no terreno.
Not only here, we discussed it not only here on the room, but outside of here that I had the opportunity to visit places here in Zimbabwe.
Devo encorajar o diretor do Serviço Penitenciário de Zimbábue.
I want to encourage the director of Zimbabwe
a continuar,
to continue with this program.
Ter coragem.
Courage.
E estamos aqui todos para poder apoiá-lo.
And we are all here to give him support.
Thank you very much. That was Commissioner General for Angola, Mr. Bernardo Pereira do Amaral from Angola Penitentiary Services.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
With parole regulations, and the exercise is ongoing, and all the contributions which have been made in this house are going towards the crafting or the drafting of the parole regulations. So many thanks to your presentations, which are going to have a meaningful insight into our parole regulations draft. Today's gathering was intended to support, contribute, and input in the parole regulation draft, shaping a system that is fair, just, and effective. In conclusion, Zimbabwe is in the process of drafting the parole regulations to operationalize the enabling provisions in the Prisons and Correctional Services Act. The import of this conference was to tap on experiences and best practices from different countries. Out of the 10 countries and the various research institutions and academic diverse view have been observed. Common from the various presenters was emphasis on case management and digitalization through AI, safer communities, victim protection, and representation. Prospective parolees consent, pre-release programs, effective supervision of the paroling, and the victim compensation were amongst some of the main issues which were topical in the discussions. The picture depicts a reintegration process which has been transpiring over the years. That lady in civilian is a lady who was in a prison, who is a celebrity in our social media. She went back to prison after reintegration to see some of the inmates whom she left in prison. So this is the kind of reintegration we are expecting through a parole system. I would like to thank you very much for coming to Zimbabwe. I hope
Prison service, and his name is Mr. Ramdeni. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
So we want to learn from Mauritius. You have a parole system already.
Yes.
Yes. So let's hear how has it been working? How effective has it been? What makes it effective?
Actually, we have a parole system according to our prison act, and the parole, how it applies, it must be half the sentence. Maybe a person sentenced for half of his sentence, he can be considered for parole.
Half of the sentence.
Half of the sentence.
Yes.
But he must at least serve 16 months in prison before being considered. So this means that a person concerned for 1 year cannot be considered for parole.
Okay. And what makes your parole system effective? For you to say your parole system is good, what's making it good?
It's maybe 50-50. It's because
it's still it's work in progress.
Yes, because during a year we can release 2 or 3 persons in parole from as parole. He can be released.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what key lessons from the Mauritius experience do you think Zimbabwe can use to develop their own parole system?
The key lesson is that, as per the conference which I am attending, here I don't know if all the person should be eligible for parole. But in my country, the person sentenced for drug offense, murder, and sexual assault upon minor are not eligible for parole. This as per our law. So this is a deterrence for this person because the case is too hard to be given parole.
So what are the factors that you consider for you to say somebody is eligible for parole? Somebody qualifies for parole?
Somebody is qualified for parole. Once you send it to the parole board consists of judiciary, police side, prison, community, and also the church side. But they have to decide. Every person sent to prison, apart from the cases which I mentioned, should be considered for parole. And then to be released on parole, it's upon the board to decide, looking at the conduct, if they are recidivism, there is no recidivism antecedent, then they can consider him for parole. But eligibility is for all persons except
those crimes that you have spoken about. And how have the people been accepted in communities? What have you done to make sure that parolees are accepted into communities?
Because they are being supervised by the probation officers outside. Once released as a parolee, they are supervised by probation officer. Not as is said by police or police, that's supervised by probation officer. But once they breach the parole condition, they are sent to prison to complete the sentence. They are sent back to complete the sentence. This is why most of the people, they prefer not to breach the condition.
So have you been having cases of reoffending when somebody is released on parole? And if you have, what is triggered?
As far as to my knowledge, the person released on parole, there is no reoffending. But because mostly the first timer, the first offender of release on parole, the parole board, when looking at the
qualifications,
is the first offender of release on parole. This is why mostly they did not reoffend.
So they don't reoffend. And what rehabilitation programs do you give in Mauritius, just to make sure that these people are self-sustainable?
Yes, we have lots of rehabilitation programs. Like you have training for carpentry, basketry. We have pastry, bakery, and also crop food growing. All these are the rehabilitation which we are doing. And also they are trained for the illiterate person. We have our teachers who give them education also. We have sport activities, and also they can follow their own religions. As we have many religions in the prison.
So as we are closing this, you have been part of this conference, the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services Parole and Reintegration Conference. What would you say you have learned that you are taking back to Mauritius?
Yes, eventually it's a very fruitful experience for me here, because comparing to Mauritius, I have learned many things which is done here, mainly what they are doing about the reintegration, rehabilitation for detainees, and there are some information that is not in Mauritius, what we are not doing in Mauritius, but I think I will try to implement some of these in my country for the better rehabilitation and reintegration of my mates.
Thank you very much. That was Assistant Commissioner Ramadan from Mauritius Prison Services. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
10, 9,
Sorry.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. Thank you very much. So, Pesci, one more thing. Turn the floor back into.
We can have any music interlude.
Zimbabwe, we have had conversations with various countries, various delegates from various countries. We have learned from them. We have seen that this parole system is working in many countries and working well, working to decongest prisons and also to rehabilitate inmates. We have also seen that those that are doing that successfully, they have 0% reoffending rate. And in Zimbabwe, we can even do better. We have countries that have so much faith in us. Some have said our open prisons are top-notch. Some have said they're going to send their teams to learn about our farming programs in Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, which is great work that is happening happening here with Commissioner General Chiwovu and team. So we are pleased with the work already. We are going to go back into the proceedings of the day as we are deliberating on the way forward after this great conference. And we are going to just join the rest of the team. So keep watching.
Our first token of appreciation goes to Sub-Inspector of the Penitentiary Guard, Lazmi Alfredo, from Mozambique. A round of applause as he comes through. Thank you so much. And then let me invite the ZPCS Assistant Commissioner Paradai, who presented last. We can give him a round of applause. Okay, having done justice to our today's presenters, esteemed delegates, allow me to invite the Secretary for Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Mrs. Wimbai Nyemba, to introduce our guest of honor to us. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will say all protocol observed. Allow me to introduce our guest speaker, who is Honorable Tatenda Anastasia Mavetera. She is Zimbabwe's Minister of Information, Communication, Technology, Postal and Courier Services. She's a young member of parliament representing Chikomba West constituency in Mashonaland East Province, Zimbabwe. Before being appointed minister, Honorable Mavetera was a member of the Pan-African Parliament, where she served as the first vice president of the Youth Caucus. At the beginning of the 9th Parliament, she was appointed Assistant Speaker, where she chaired Parliament and committees in the House. She is a very aggressive and passionate woman when it comes to youth and women's issues in Zimbabwe. She initiated the Youth Caucus in the 9th Parliament in an effort to address youth issues, and furthermore, she was a member of the Budget and Justice Committees. In 2021, in yet another political dimension, she initiated a movement dubbed Young Women for Economic Development, which is Young Women for ED, which gave birth to several other affiliates or movements under the For ED banner. She holds an honors degree in management and marketing, as well as a master's in strategic marketing. She is a strategic marketer and information and communication expert who has been in the information and communication technology industry for the past 11 years. Honorable Mavetera is currently pursuing a doctorate in business leadership at Midlands State University. Honorable Minister, I welcome you to the podium. We can give you a round of applause as he comes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. Allow me to recognize the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Mrs. V. Nyemba. Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services Commissioner General, Dr. Moses Cyril Ngawaite Chobvu. Namibia Correctional Service Commissioner, General Arati Hamunyela, who is also the ASA Secretary and the Dean for Southern Africa. Heads and representatives of prisons, correctional services from the following countries: Angola, Botswana, Kingdom of Eswatini, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Tanzania, South Africa, Zambia, Prisons and Correctional Services Commission and Commissioners, ZPCS Deputy Commissioner Generals, senior government officials, senior officers, stakeholders, the media fraternity. It's a very good afternoon to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with profound sense of achievement and immense optimism that I stand before you to bring this inaugural Parole System Conference in Africa to its formal close. Over the past 4 days, the warmth of Harare has been matched not only by the intellectual energy within this conference. We, however, have transitioned from the shared vision of reform to the meticulous blueprint of its execution, engaging in a dialogue that is not merely academic, but deeply rooted in the practical realities of correctional administration across our diverse region and continent. Ladies and gentlemen, our deliberations have produced a shared understanding distilled into 4 guiding principles that will shape our reform agenda going forward. In this regard, we have noted firstly the crucial need for secure, objective oversight mechanisms that rely on data and technology. We have also observed that parole decisions should move beyond subjectivity. Moreover, adopting advanced risk assessment tools ensures that determinations are guided by objective criteria. Such tools provide measurable insights into offender behavior. They strengthen predictive capacity and uphold the integrity of parole decisions by anchoring them in evidence rather than discretion. Therefore, the adoption of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and data analytics software, therefore, are very important and essential ingredient to this process. These instruments enable us to predict recidivism, evaluate offender evaluation, and ensure that parole determinations rest upon objective, evidence-based assessment. In so doing, we safeguard public safety while reinforcing the integrity and credibility of our justice system. We are glad that as Zimbabwe, we have approved our national artificial intelligence strategy. Therefore, it is quite paramount that we integrate artificial intelligence in all our justice system so that we become very deliberate. Secondly, we must also note that reintegration requires structured supervision and community support. we have observed that the transition and also incarceration to full citizenship requires careful management. Consequently, a key point in this regard is that effective supervision should balance accountability with respect for autonomy, fostering trust between parole officers and offenders. At the same time, community intervention programs engaging local organizations, faith-based communities, and corporates are essential to create supportive environments where paroles can contribute positively to society. Thirdly, we further noted that accountability and legal integrity are paramount values in this endeavor. Confidence in our correctional system depends on procedural fairness. Mechanisms such as tiered appeals and high court reviews illustrate the importance of strong legal safeguards. In this respect, it should be underscored that every parole decision is subject to legal scrutiny. This precaution ensures that constitutional rights, human dignity, and protection from degrading treatment and also upheld without compromise at all times. Last but not least, we have observed that systematic interconnection and adequate resources are indispensable to the successful implementation of parole. Reform cannot succeed in isolation. Law enforcement, rehabilitation services, and community actors need to operate in concert. We always believe that as a government, our President, His Excellency Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, has been very clear that we don't need to leave anyone in any place behind. And we also need to foster on great collaboration. This means that for us as a country, for us to progress well, we should also find ways that we can, for us to make sure that we have great collaboration from all the facets within the justice system. While this may sound straightforward, the reality is that such collaboration depends on our resources. It also requires funding for rehabilitation programs, specialized training for parole officers, and sustained institutional support. Only if these fundamentals are put in place, therefore, we'll be able to establish a system capable of meeting the diverse needs of paroles across the region and African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, in this context of Zimbabwe, these principles are directly applicable. As we finalize regulations under the new Prisons and Correctional Services, Chapter 7.23, we shall ensure that our framework is scientifically grounded and aligned with international best practices. We are committed to embed robust supervision, data-driven decision-making, and first release into our operational structures. The task of reforming parole is complex, but with unity and resolve, it is achievable. May I take this opportunity to congratulate ourselves on the success of this gathering. Congratulations. Our triumph is a testament to the collective will of African nations to lead the way in human and effective justice delivery. On behalf of the government of Zimbabwe, I wish to express our sincerest gratitude to all delegates that traveled to be with us for this critical conference. Indeed, your presence has enriched our discussions with your operational wisdom and shared challenges. In this respect, I would like to give us to all stand and give a standing ovation to our brothers and sisters from Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, and Zambia. May we all stand for them. Thank you very much. We may sit. We deeply value your comradeship and your spirit of collective purpose you have just demonstrated. It is evident that despite many demands upon your time, you have chosen to stand with us at this critical juncture. Your presence and commitment are not only appreciated, but also serve as a testimony to the unity and resolve required to advance our shared objectives. It also confirms that effective rehabilitative justice is not only going to be done in silo, but it has to be a Pan-African priority, which is bound by shared constitutional values and a commitment to public safety. We also extend our heartfelt appreciation to the moderators and resource persons whose dedication and expertise ensured that deliberations during the Parole conference were both smooth and also enriching. The moderators provided steady guidance and fostered meaningful dialogue, while resource persons delivered insightful presentations that deepened our understanding and also informed our discussions. Their combined efforts contributed greatly to the success of this conference, and we are grateful for their invaluable contributions. Allow me to also extend our sincere gratitude to the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, ZPCS, under the Commissioner General's steadfast leadership, to the dedicated organizing and supported staff. Your tireless efforts and warm hospitality has been truly exemplary, providing a strong foundation for this important event. Well done. To our brothers and sisters who will be traveling locally and abroad, depart from here with this shared vision of correctional systems that transcend mere confinement. Let us commit to protect our public by investing wisely and effectively in the successful reintegration of those under our care. Together, by embracing innovative technologies, fostering interconnections within the justice system, and ensuring resource allocation, we can transform this process into one that not only rehabilitates individuals, but also strengthens our society. We wish all delegates safe travels to respective destinations and look forward to meet again at future platforms of collaboration. With these words, it is now my singular honor and privilege to formally declare the inaugural Parole System Conference officially closed. I thank you.
Another round of applause to our guest of honor. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. When she was speaking and with the standing ovation, I remember quite well when I was doing my secondary education, we used to read a book that was titled People Making History. But today, when we stood up acknowledging the work that has been done, it came to my mind that you and I have made history, Zimbabwe has made history, Africa has made history. Another round of applause. Our guest of honor, allow me to invite the man who is at the apex of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service. Like you've mentioned, a distinguished leader, Commissioner General, Dr. MCN Chiovu, to give us a vote of thanks. Let's give him another applause as he comes through.
The Minister of Information, Communication, Technology, Postal and Courier Services, Honorable Tatenda Mawete. Honorable Minister, Yesterday, when we visited Chikurubi with the delegations, we had an opportunity to visit the computer lab. So they were asking me, how do you acquire these gadgets? Then I said to them, we have got a Minister of Information. I did not know that you are coming. So colleagues, this is the Honorable Minister who supports us in terms of what. Permanent Secretary for Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Ms. V. Nyemba, Namibia Correctional Service Commissioner General R.T. Amunyela, who is also the Secretary for AXA and the Dean of Southern Africa Correctional Penitentiary. The Dean is our head, and I think I'm older than him, and we are no longer friends, but we are now brothers. Heads of representatives of prisons, penitentiary, and correctional service from the countries which have been mentioned, let me say all protocols observed. Honorable Ministers, on behalf of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service, allow me to express our deep appreciation for your presence and for officially guiding us to the conclusion of this historic parole system conference. Your remarks have crystallized the strategic direction expected of us as a service, and we are grateful for your continued leadership and support. The past 4 days have been both enlightening and transformative for us as the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service. This conference has served as a powerful affirmation that the pathway to a credible parole system rests on professionalism, integrity, and innovation within the correctional services. It has also provided the much-needed platform to benchmark ourselves against regional counterparts, to learn from practical experiences, and to reflect critically on how best we can strengthen our own systems under the new Prisons and Correctional Service Act. As custodians of corrections, this conference has reinforced 3 key imperatives. Firstly, the need for institutional readiness. As the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service, we recognize that the success of parole depends on well-trained officers, efficient internal processes, and reliable information systems. The insights shared here have strengthened our resolve to invest more deliberately in capacity building, case management systems, and consistent supervision practices. And secondly, this conference has reaffirmed that parole is a correctional tool, not a release mechanism. It is an integral part of the rehabilitation cycle. As such, we leave this gathering committed to deepen our rehabilitation programs, strengthen behavioral assessment frameworks, and improve our interaction with communities so that reintegration is meaningful and sustainable. Thirdly, we have been reminded that collaborations matter. Reintegration cannot be achieved by the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service alone. The engagement with our regional partners, civil societies, voices, and various local institutions through this conference has underscored the importance of shared responsibility. As ZPCS, we should enhance our collaboration, especially with community groups, the corporate world, faith-based organizations, and local authorities, so that our paroles find a society prepared to receive and support them. In the same spirit of collaboration, allow me to extend an important invitation to all heads of correctional services present here, that next year, Zimbabwe will be launching the Pathways to Reintegration Foundation, a groundbreaking initiative designed to enhance reintegration efforts through coordinated stakeholder participation and resource mobilization. I think in the presentation discussion, people were discussing about the community and victims who have been wronged and the offender. So this foundation will be responsible to assist us in the reintegration process. So this foundation seeks to provide structured support to offenders transitioning back into society, strengthening the continuum between rehabilitation and successful reintegration. We will be honored by your presence at this launch. The official invitation with dates and program details will be communicated in due course. To our esteemed counterparts from Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Malawi, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, and Zambia, we sincerely appreciate your presence and invaluable contributions. You have broadened our perspective, challenged our assumptions, and inspired us with your diverse approaches to parole management. We deeply value your solidarity with Zimbabwe and your willingness to share knowledge openly. Our heartfelt appreciation also goes to the moderators and resource persons who guided our discussions with confidence, discipline, and expertise. The clarity of the outcomes we achieved is a direct reflection of your efforts. Allow me also to commend the organizing committee who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Your dedication ensured that this inaugural conference proceeded smoothly and represented our institution with dignity. You have demonstrated that Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service is organizationally and professionally ready to take its place among modern correctional services. And also, I have to challenge the Dean that we are now way ahead as Zimbabwe, but we are not going to leave you behind. To all our distinguished guests traveling back to different countries, provinces, and cities, we wish you safe journeys. As you return home, may you carry with you not only memories of Zimbabwe's hospitality, but also shared resolve to build parole systems that protect societies while transforming lives. Before I conclude, may I also thank the officers commanding of regions for attending and also participating. The task is now ours. We have to continue to work as a team. If we continue to work as a team, then our objectives will be achieved. Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service, I would like once again to extend our sincere gratitude to everyone who played a part in making this gathering a success. I thank you, Siyabonga, Tatenda, Thank you.
Another round of applause to our Commissioner General. He has mentioned that collaboration matters, and to give that another fresh breath, 18 days from now, distinguished delegates, Zimbabwe is going to celebrate Unity Day. So wherever you might be, it might be in Angola, South Africa, Botswana, wherever you might be, please take a day off, make it a public holiday, join us in celebrating Unity Day because your contributions were quite insightful. Thank you. Our guest of honor, we truly recognize your presence. And as such, allow me to invite our Commissioner General, Dr. MCN Chiwobo, to present a token of our appreciation for your presence. Thank you.
Is not just a story, but a journey through one of the darkest chapters in the history of our country. From 1964 to 1974, while many events that shaped the world's history were happening across the globe, one teenager's incarceration became the symbol of a fight against oppression and colonialism. In the darkest shadows of colonial oppression, men and women endured the trials of prison walls, the weight of injustice, and the pain of sacrifice. Among them was Topablas, prisoner 841/66, a symbol of countless voices.
Well, it has been a day that actually began with us reaching out to those ex-offenders through one of them, Omberai Zambuko. We then went on a roller coaster of interviewing, talking to regional heads of prisons, corrections, and penitentiary services, sharing with us their experiences on the parole system. And of course, the highlight of the day was the closing speech from the Minister of ICT, Honorable Tatenda Mavetera. What a day it was, Superintendent Mtamba.
Tinotenda ranga riri zuva rakanaka nhasi ratanga zvakanaka sezvamanzwa vateereri nevatariri kuti zuva ranhasi tatanga isu tine mukomana akanga ari mujere akagara nguva yakati rebei ari mutorongo, asi mukomana akakwanisa kubuda mujeri akakwanisa kurarama upenyu hwake zvekuti akukwanisa kutokurudzirawo vamwe kuti vaite zvakanaka kana vachinge vabuda mutorongo. Tinoda kutenda zvikuru vatungamiriri vematorongo vauya pano vatakwanisa kutaura navo vakati wandei vanosvika vapfumbamwe takwanisa kukurukura navo pano vachitionesawo zvavari kuita kunyika dzavo. Tinoda kufara kuti tine zvakawanda zvatadzidza kubva kwavari, ivo vataurawo zvakare kuti vane zvizhinji zvavadzidza kubva paparole iyoyi, paparole conference iyi yaitwa kwemazuva mana. Toda kutenda iye zvino panguva yamasikati ano ndo paakupera parole conference yedu taona Honorable Tatenda Mavetera vachitaura mashoko ekuvhara ekupedzesera kureva kuti parole iyi yakupera iye zvino, asi pane zvizhinji vamapfumo zvabuda mukati meparole iyoyi zvatanzwa zvichikurukurwa mukati umu zvichabatsira Zimbabwe senyika uye Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service sedepartment rinochengeta pamwe nekuvandudzwa kwevasungwa. Taona zvizhinji zvatadzidza kubva kune nyika dzakasiyana siyana zvatichasarawo tichigara pasi tichiona kuti senyika toenderera mberi sei kuti parole system yakuintroducwa ibude zvakanaka. Tinoda kutenda zvakare kuvateereri vedu vanga vane sunguva dzese kuti papurogiramu iyoyi yatabva iri kubva mukupera pane zvizhinji zvamuchanzwa kumberi uku zvichange zvichizoitika zvatawanawo tichibhenefita kubva kushamwari dzedu dzemuno muafrica nyika 10 dzanga dzakatiunganira kwemazuva 4 vachiratidza kuchinjana mashoko eungwaru neekuvaka pamwe chete. Toda kutenda Commissioner General Dr. Mosiri Ongawaite Chihobvu nekudaidza makurukota abva kunyika 10 idzi pamwe chete nekuronga gungano irori riri pano rekuti pakurukurwe chinhu chakakosha kudai, uye nehurumende tichiona maminista vachiuya kudai zviri kureva kuti naivo His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa vari kutsigira zvakare chirongwa ichochi kuti chienderere mberi, kuti vasungwa vari mumatorongo vakwanise kubatsirikana, nekuti kana munhu achinge asungwa mapfumo, isu basa redu senyika nderekuvandudza kuti munhu pfungwa dzake dzidzoke ararame nevamwe zvakanaka musociety. Saka saizvozvo tinoda kutenda hurumende yedu naCommissioner General naMinister of Justice zvakare Honorable Ziyambi Ziyambi vakaita kuti zvese izvi zvinge zviripo. Kubva kwatiri sevashamarari venyu pano tinoda kutendai zvikuru from ZTN Prime and the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Facebook page. Vatsigiri vedu vanga vachititevera, tinoda kutenda zvikuru nekuve nesu kubva pazuva rekutanga kusvika pazuva ranhasi rechina. Munodadisa, tinokudai mese mazvita yenyu, tinotenda.
What a way to end the 4-day conference on the Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Service Parole and Reintegration Conference.
Sibonge baba mapfumo, sibonge mwile Zimbabwe sesifike ke emaphethelweni ohlelo kube sithi we-conference olwe Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service Parole and Reintegration Conference oluqaleke mhla ka-1 akusiyafika ke namhlanje 4 December 2025 sikhona pha ke e-HICC eHarare. Umhlangano nalo usitshiye ke wasethulela ke imqondo emkhulu futhi isitshiyele ke injongo entsha njenge-Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Service. Namhlanje ke besilaye ke uMinister Tatenda Mabetera, simbonga kanye ngokubuya ke ezosivalela ke umhlangano namhlanje ke amazwi athe wawethulela ke akade bekhona phakathi kwali conference. Ubonge kakhulu umoya wokubambana owamazwi akhona phake kwele Africa, wathi ukuthi ke ukuphela kwano lomhlangano usithiyeke silezifundo ezokubana ke uhlelo nalolo le-parole luzahamba njani ke bamapfumo. Sibonge kakhulu ke omunye ke wezibotshwe kade silaye lapha obuye ke wazoyazisa ke imuli eZimbabwe ukuthi yena entulongweni behlezi njani njalo phandle abantu bamukela njani. Kuyisifiso sethu ke njenge-Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Service ukubana ke maye izihlobo zethu sesithe zaphuma entolongweni sizamukele ngezandla zombili. So siphetha ke nalelo hlelo yebaba mapfumo, nithemba ukubana ke konke sithe sakuhlela asikhona apha izinto ezazisebenzisa zenelise ukubana ke lolu hlelo le-parole luphumelele. Mina lami igama ke ngusibona ke le Precious Ndanga, Principal Correctional Officer. Besisonke mwile Zimbabwe kumnandi sisonke impendulo zenu, imbono yenu besiyibona akuZTN Prime Facebook page kanye ke le-Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Service. Okuhleke ukubana ke impendulo liziphiwe kumbuzo ekade lilayo. Okuningi nxa kusilele lingaphendulekanga livunelekile njalo likhululekile ukubana lethumeleke imbono yenu ku-Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Service Facebook page lapho lizathola khona ke imbono yenu. Salani kuhle balalele emakhaya.
So from me, Solomon Mapfumo and Superintendent Solomon Ntamba, Precious Ndanga is goodbye for now.